Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
This is our virtual meeting, August 13th. Roseanne, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mayor Halpin,
Here.
Vice Mayor Kennedy,
I'm here. Just keep my phone open, please, Roseanne, and not my video.
okay. Commissioner Ross,
Here.
Commissioner Samari,
Yeah.
Commissioner Tudor.
Here.
All right, Mayor.
Okay. Commissioner Samari, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hoorah.
Thank you. Are there any additions and deletions?
I have a couple of things, Jimmy.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
At the last commission meeting, John Herron brought to us an amicus brief from the city of Philadelphia, from somewhere in Philadelphia.
Can you do
that
something
he
about
asked
your
us
sound?
to,
Mac, you're coming in
what's
garbled.
the matter with it? Let me turn it up. Is that any better?
Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. At the last meeting, John Herron brought an amicus brief to us that he asked us to consider, and we had not had a chance to read it. He has since sent it out to us. There's a deadline of next week if we're going to participate in that, so I think we need to add that to the agenda tonight. I would like, we just received immediately before the meeting, the commission received an update on the solid waste RFP during Roseanne's section at the end. I would like her to give an update so everyone can hear that as well. I literally just received it moments ago. I'd also like her to discuss when she's going to announce the P&Z opening, because we have our next meeting coming up in a few short weeks, and I want to make sure that we're able to appoint someone to that board on September 8th. I understand we have several applicants already. It's a very important quasi-judicial board, and we can't have people's permits possibly held up if they don't make a quorum for some reason. I think we need to have an update on the manager selection. I have a couple of questions about that during Roseanne's comments at the end. Also, FDOT sent an email today updating us on their response, and I think that needs to be announced officially by Roseanne. And literally moments ago, an update did go out about COVID concerns regarding the August 18th election. I had asked if that could go out last meeting. I see that went out, so thank you for taking care of that, Roseanne.
Vice Mayor Kennedy, can you seem to do something with your sound, because you're still very garbled?
A little muffled.
What did you say?
And
Roseanne, is that coming in the same way to you as it is to me?
Yes, yes, it is. It's coming like a little muffled.
I don't know why that would be. Huh.
It sounds like you're
Let me mute
underwater.
myself and Is that any better? Any better?
Yeah, it's
No, not much.
No?
Not much.
Okay.
It's,
I don't know why that would be.
No.
It's the same setup I always use.
it still sounds very garbled, like
turn that-
underwater.
While he fixes it, Commissioner Ross Commissioner Ross wants to speak.
Yes. With regard to additions,
Go ahead.
I have an update on my personal situation, but not to go too far deep into it. The September 1st and September 8th meetings. Just like to update you on that towards the end. Also wanted to discuss manager recruitment and the background checks related to that. So we could tack that on to Mac's item about the manager selection. And I wanted to talk about background checks in general for village hires, as long as we're on the topic. That's all.
Okay, so that'll go under the manager's report?
Commissioner report to me.
Actually, the manager selection process, I don't think should be tied to the manager's report. It really needs to be, you know, a standalone item for commission discussion.
Okay, where do you want to put that?
Could be under old business. Seven B.
7B, okay. For the background checks?
The whole manager recruitment and subtopics under that.
Okay, and what about your September 1st, September 8th?
Yeah, I could talk about that at 7C.
At 7B, okay. And where do you want to put yours, Mac? Vice Mayor Kennedy, where do you want to put your update on Waste Pro? Is that all under the manager's report? You can't hear me. Commissioner Kennedy can't hear me. Mac, can you hear me at all? He can hear me, but we can't hear you.
Yeah, because he's muted.
No, that's on his picture. He's always muted on that. He's on his phone.
Okay. Oh, he's okay now. Commissioner
Can you
Kennedy?
hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
now
I
I
can.
can hear you. Okay.
Okay. Is that
And
better
it's
than the
mo-
first time?
Yes, sir, it's much better.
Okay.
That's
Good.
better.
I called in from a different phone.
Okay.
Now I'm echoing in my own ear.
You want
Do
your
you need me
Waste
to
Pro
run through my
to,
additions again, Ginny?
yes, do that, please. You want your Waste Pro
Okay.
under the manager's report?
The amicus brief, I guess, could be new business.
Okay.
The solid waste update could be old business.
Okay,
B&Z, I guess, is new business.
we'll put the amicus curiae on that village attorney. On John, you have that, right?
Well, it's something we're maybe voting on, so can we vote on an item in his report? I don't know how that works.
I don't know why not.
You certainly can vote on it under my report.
Right.
Okay. Want to make sure we can do that. The manager update, I guess Rox just added that under old business.
Right, 7B.
Okay. And the F dot, I guess you could add under old business. I don't mind if it stays in Roseanne's report. It's just something she's going to report to the residents.
Okay. So we'll have
And
that
that was it.
as Commissioner Royce and Commissioner Kennedy. Okay. Any other additions or deletions?
Motion
Make a
to approve all
motion.
the additions.
I'm sorry?
Motion to approve all the additions.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'd like to open it up to public comments on the
David,
agenda items and good and welfare.
David Raymond, you open?
Yes. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. David Raymond, 11520 Northeast 9th Avenue. I want to talk about the tree grant item 6D. I don't know if I'll be recognized while you're doing it, so I just wanted to speak about it briefly. We've been working on this for the last couple of months. I wanted to thank our board, Barbara Cool and Audra McCullough, Lynn Fisher, Randy Wagner, and our new member, Mike Rawson. It's been a team effort. We've been working on this. We started this last year. Anyway, we're almost done, hopefully. We've had 4 contract amendments in the last couple of weeks with the county to get this where it needs to be. North Miami allowed us to piggyback off of their contract that they procured, and they procured the services of John Allred, who I see I've never met before, but I've talked to him another time, a bunch of times here. John's been wonderful, and John is from Country Builds, landscape, lawn maintenance, and he has been very, very helpful with us and gotten back to us, been very responsive. The county's been very responsive. So just the key points. This is for 60 trees. What we had to do with some of these amendments were change some contract dates, and we also had to change some of the tree species and the locations. We originally had 17 trees that we picked out, 17 species of trees. We wound up only being able to obtain 13 because of the size. The trees need to be a certain size for the county's grant. So we've done that. That resulted in the contract being, what's being proposed tonight in front of you is $27,525. When we did our research and we put in for the grant, we asked for $24,000. I will say we did have several discussions with our board and with David Hernandez and Christian about getting more money from the village for that, but that was the cap we were maxed out at. So at any rate, this is costing more. The match from the county is $12,000. What we have to pay instead of 12, the 50% match, we would have to pay $15,525 because of the additional cost of the trees. So we're still getting a $12,000 match. We're still getting 60 trees. We're going to, hopefully, if you approve this all tonight, Barbara is going to go around and stake the trees. I imagine she's going to twist Gary's arm to help her paint or stick stakes in. So thank you in advance. And the grant for next year has already been released by the county, and it's due October 2nd. So if we want to do this again, our board has to decide on that. We have to bring it back to you if that's going to happen. And finally, we're going to do a press release, which is required by the county when this goes out. And we'd like to be able to do an e-blast from the village that tells everyone that the week that Mr. Allred will be here planting to look for the new trees and kind of get some buzz going and make people feel good about it. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I'm looking for someone else. Raise their hand. I don't see anybody else, Mayor.
Is there anybody else that wants? Barbara, do you have anything to add to that? Can't hear you. Unmute, Barbara.
You have a one,
Okay, I see.
and Bob's iPad.
Okay, I see Juan Mantega. You are muted, sir.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes?
Okay, yes.
Hi, my name is Juan Mantega, owner and resident at 615 Northeast 115th. Not sure if this is the proper time or forum. If not, please forgive the improper protocol. I just essentially want to follow up an email that I sent to the committee and to the mayor regarding flooding and drainage on the northeast corner of my block. I understand that this is the preface for a budgeting meeting, and I'm imploring the committee and the village to please consider immediate remedies to either the drainage or leveling the street on 115th Street. As you drive, it doesn't really take an engineer to see that the street is completely unlevel, and it all ends up on my property, ultimately excessively flooding my property up to my front door. And this is just on regular rain periods, not even tropical storms or hurricanes. Not much more to add other than please consider my email, my pictures, and my situation, and hopefully that we can come up with an amicable remedy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,
I had asked Barbara, Roseanne, if she wanted to add anything on the trees.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I have Bobby Anderson. You are muted.
Yes. Yep. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yes.
Okay. 11th Place, 119th Street. Two things. I agree completely with that person that spoke before me, 115th Street. That has been a problem for many, many years, and he's not exaggerating it. It really floods towards his house. And the other thing I'd like for the commission to be thinking about, if we go for another tree grant for next year, we ought to be putting in some trees east of 10th Avenue. I mean, we don't have very many trees east of 10th Avenue. Start to really look at the area and start putting in some trees so it looks like the rest of Biscayne Park. Thank you.
Okay.
Chuck Ross.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Chuck Ross, 11166 Griffin Boulevard. A couple of things. We're going to talk about the attorney later. I think we have 5 applicants, and I want to advocate for that we continue with our current attorney, John Herron, and basically move forward for the sake of stability and the fact that John knows us. I think there's only one other firm that might be considered qualified based on what I saw. And we know John, and we know, and he knows us. So I would hope that we would just move forward and hire John and basically get it over with at this point. I have some concerns, and I've voiced them before, with the moving the clerk to the interim manager position. I don't feel that she can handle both her job as clerk and as manager. And I think you should consider going back to Paul, our finance director, and see if he will take over in the short while. We know he has no interest in becoming manager here. He's very familiar with us. He's familiar with the finances. So I think you guys ought to maybe reconsider. I was very generous of Roseanne to offer to take this responsibility, but I'm concerned that she, is being overwhelmed. There's one item that needs to be talked about tonight. I don't know if Paul's on the line, but in connection with the CITT, I don't see his name here. In connection with the CITT, he's here?
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, he'll talk about it then. So the reason that I'm bringing it up is that a 5-year plan needs to be developed, and the commission needs to approve it, and it's a time-sensitive item. So I'll since Paul's on, I'm sure he'll discuss that. And I want to commend his firm for in a very short time putting together a report based on the information that was obtained at the end of April. And it was unfortunate that the former interim manager didn't take the opportunity to move this over to Paul's firm earlier. And we wasted about 2.5 months on this. But once again, I want to thank Paul's firm. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, let me see if I see somebody else.
Is there anybody else on public comments?
You want to speak? Barbara Q, are you want to speak?
No, thank you.
Okay. No, I don't see anybody else, Mayor.
Okay. Okay, make a motion to close public comments. All in favor?
I'll make a motion to close public comments.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. John, do you want to do the resolution of 2020-37? I think that can be combined probably with 2020-38.
Yes, ma'am. Give me a moment here. Let's see, get to the agenda.
6A, 6B.
Yeah. Well, I went right past it. I apologize, Mayor. Let's see. God, I had it up here a moment ago. Okay. Hey, let's see. I apologize. My computer is not cooperating.
It happened.
It happens, A and B.
If you're just reading the title, I'll be happy to read that for you.
Hold on. There we go.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I do want to, with a point of order, Madam Mayor, I do want to comment on 6A, so after he reads it.
Resolution 2020-37, a resolution of the Mayor and Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park Florida authorizing the interim village manager to execute a memorandum of understanding between the Dade County Police Benevolent Association, Inc. and the Village of Biscayne Park authorizing a temporary 1% pay increase related to the COVID-19 pandemic, providing for severability and providing for an effective date. The other related item is Resolution 2020-38, which is a resolution of the Mayor and Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, authorizing the interim village manager to execute an interlocal agreement between Miami-Dade County and the Village of Biscayne Park regarding implementation of the Federal Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, providing for severability and providing an effective date. To the extent, Mayor and Commission, you all discuss these items together. Ultimately, you will have to vote on the two resolutions separately.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I do understand they are interrelated.
Okay, do we have a motion for 2020-37?
I'd like to ask a question about it in reference to.
I want a motion first.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second it. I'll second it for discussion.
Okay. Discussion? Commissioner Samari, you want to talk on that one?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Mayor. First off, good afternoon to the rest of the commissioners and to the residents. The question I have on this is reference to, I think Commissioner Ross brought up the last commission meeting. What's the cost per month of this 1% as it is pay? And is this going to be covered in the savings that the police department has? That's the question.
Chief, do you want to add anything on that? Answer his question?
What was this? I couldn't understand the question, Chief.
Okay. And maybe Commissioner Ross can explain it better because she brought up a question at the last commission meeting. I think she was talking about what the hazardous pay to cost was. Am I wrong, Commissioner Ross? If it is, if I'm correct, then I just want what the cost is per month. Or maybe if Commissioner Ross can explain what her objections were in the last meeting in reference to cost.
Commissioner Ross, you're muted. Okay.
May I?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I had several questions that I posed in an email to the administration, and I haven't heard the first answer back. So I'm really sitting in the same position that I was sitting in the last time this came to us. One of the questions did relate to what is the monetary impact? Yes, there is provision for some reimbursement from the county, but we don't know how much money we're going to have to shell out. It commits us, the first agreement with the PBA commits us to the hazard pay, whether or not we get reimbursed, regardless. So I don't begrudge our officers the pay. I think that it's well earned and they deserve it, but in order to make an informed decision, this commission should have that information, and I don't have it as we sit here today.
Chief, would you respond to that?
Mayor Hawkins?
Yes.
On the item, I added the FAQs from the Miami-Dade County Center. And on the FAQs, we have pretty much all the answers that we're looking for.
Does the FAQ tell us how much money Biscayne Park will have to spend on the 1%?
We don't have the specific numbers for Biscayne Park, but we have all the answers for the.
Roseanne, I'm sorry to interrupt, but someone's phone is open. I think it might be the police chief's, and all I'm hearing is air. Someone's driving in their car. It sounds like. That's better. Thank you. All I heard was FAQ.
Chief, do you have the answers to that of what the cost will be to the village?
Can Paul?
Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and back up a little bit. So I did have a couple of discussions with Commissioner Ross and I think also with Chuck on this issue and with Paul. So the email being discussed with the questions I don't know. I can't answer what has been responded to or not, but I want to back up and kind of explain what the 1% is. Basically, the reason why there's two different articles being proposed is because in order to provide money to any union employees or anybody that negotiates a contract, you have to have an agreement with those entities that are involved. So what the PBA did in order to be able to provide them this kind of hazardous pay during the COVID pandemic, they entered into an agreement with the Police Benevolent Association of Miami-Dade County, which also represents our officers, which by the way are about, I think they're about 9, and they represent them. So this allows once we enter into the agreement with relating with the PBA 1%, this allows us to be able to piggyback off the agreement that the county currently has with the PBA. Now discussing the numbers, I had this discussion with Roseanne, and I believe with Paul, that basically the numbers that Sharon was going to look up, and Paul, you can provide that, or Sharon on the line, is the for the full-time officers, for the current full-time officers that qualify under the current PBA agreement. Go ahead, Paul.
If I may, on the FAQs, they answered that the part-time employees are also eligible.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Correct.
I didn't hear that, Roseanne. You're kind of garbled.
On the FAQs, they inform the part-time employees, I mean the part-time police officers,
right,
they're also eligible for the supplement.
Well, I think we established that at the last meeting. I understood that from last time, but what I'm not understanding is why it's so hard for us to have a figure in front of us. We know how much we pay everybody. It's 1%. So why is there not a figure here for us to look at? I would have liked to have had it the first time we considered this, and we asked for it, and we're still not getting it. So it's a pretty straightforward thing.
Commissioner Kennedy, that's exactly what I discussed after we brought this up in the last meeting with Paul and his staff, and it's 1% of whatever salary we're paying now the current part-time and full-time employees. That's the answer.
Right, but we know who it is. We know when it is. It's from a certain date where it's retroactive back to June 1 or something, and it runs through the end of the year. So this is pretty straightforward stuff. Well, we don't have that number.
Is Paul on the line?
Yes, it is.
Paul,
Yes.
do you have those figures?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to pull up the email we sent you guys. I don't have it handy on my screens because I've got all these screens open for the budget workshop. If you give me a minute, I'll get right back to you.
Did we receive an email that had the numbers in it? I don't recall receiving that.
I provided it to staff.
Neither. Yeah, I haven't gotten it either.
All right. Commissioners, did you get it? Dan, Will, did you get it?
No.
I didn't.
No? Jenny's saying no? Okay, well, well, frustrating. This is supposed to be a special quick meeting. We're already past our 30-minute deadline, and the simplest thing on the agenda we don't have in front of us. Come on now. While Paul looks for that, may I ask a couple of questions about this?
Sure,
I had some questions as well last time. I had questions last time that I did not get an answer to either, and I sent several emails requesting the answers. I, too, do not begrudge these employees to get the money, particularly if we're getting paid back for it. It's a wash at the end, if it's all handled properly, and that's my concern, and I did not get an answer to my question. My question was, how do we have to account for this money when we claim it back through the CARES Act? Because there's very specific language that says we're paying for COVID-only tasks, and we need to know what those COVID-related tasks are. At the last meeting, there was a conversation about what everyone kind of thought that it must have meant, and the chief told me that, you know, when an officer's working, it is a COVID-related task because we're in a pandemic. I think we just need to have all of that nailed down better, because I don't want to agree to pay out X amount of money when we find out how much that is here in a moment, to then later find out that either we were not allowed to pay for all of their work time, or we were required to report it in a very specific way. And because we didn't go into this setting our records up properly, we didn't have the information to request it out the back end. So my concerns are how much we're paying them, and also what exactly will be eligible for the pay and how we're required to report it. Let's find that out now. That was a question I asked last time and several times via email, and I haven't got a response. And
Yes.
whatever these answers are, I really would like to see them in writing, because I don't want to enter a situation where we think one thing now because someone told us something and then we find out something later. In the CARES Act, they very clearly say eligible activities for reimbursement. We need to know what those eligible activities are, and we need to make sure that we're doing good record keeping going in so we aren't tripping over this later. Those are my concerns. Still don't have answers.
I think that you're doing 2020-38 also with the Miami-Dade
Well, I
County
just
CARES
threw in
Act.
one thing about the CARES Act, yes, but about
but
the
that-
1%.
That in itself is separate from the police hazardous pay, because we have already sent in our expenses on 2020-38, which they will not even consider until this is signed. And this has nothing to
I
do
understand.
with the police.
No, I'm talking about the MOU for the police pay. It says it's assigned to COVID-19 work, and it very clearly says it's for COVID-only tasks. So we need to make sure that we understand what that means. It does not say give them a 1% pay increase from this date to this date. It says when they're working on COVID-related tasks. If we just agree to do this and do a blanket 1% and start paying them, I don't want to find out later on that they're going to hold us to this COVID-related task clause and not pay us back this money. We can't exactly go to our employees and say, oh, we overpaid you, give it back. That wouldn't be fair to them.
Okay, Paul, did you get
I'm
a
just
number
asking
on
for
that?
clarification of the language.
Yeah, so I don't have a full analysis with those questions included because they're the first they've been presented that way. But we provided back a spreadsheet of what the 1% of the administrative department and police department and public works.
Date that you sent that information, I'm looking here. I can.
August 6th. So in that spreadsheet under the template, it goes back through the beginning of the year to date. It does not project from now going forward, but you're at $89,000 all included. That's the 1% of all the departments plus the direct expenses. So what's eligible or not, I don't have that fully identified, but the total picture, and we did set up an account to correct the discussion immediately. David Hernandez directed us to establish a complete COVID
Right, but
account.
that's the
line.
one, Paul, on 2020-38, not on the 2020-37. The account that David Hernandez set up.
So in that account, what we were doing was tracking the direct expenses. And
Right.
once the CARES Act came out, we added the personnel expense to keep that separate and be able to measure and calculate however we interpret the rule. So that's available as soon as we make the interpretations, the numbers will reflect it.
Yeah, Paul, I can't find your email on August 6th.
Okay, well, I have it right in front of me and I'm looking at it, and that's what the administrative department is $39,222 to date, and police is $29,774. But again, that might be over calculating because of the interpretations that have been discussed today.
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead, Chief.
If you can allow Chuck Ross, he's been assisting me with this issue, and he has further explanations because all of this was outlined in the documents that were presented from the county. Chuck, can you intervene here and go over all the documents we discussed and what were in those documents, which is in the and the information we provided to everybody else before. Go ahead, Chuck.
Well, that's up to the mayor. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
If I understand what the chief's asking me when we discussed, but there's a presumption that between the range of dates that are presented in the agreement with the PBA, that officers are presumed to be basically on hazard pay, and we get 1% of all the hours they are on a shift. Because of the administrative complexities of trying to account for where and what they're doing, there's a presumption that they are earning, they're in a hazardous condition. And I think, is this what you're asking me to relate, Chief?
Can I add something here on the FA case, on the number 3, the question? It says the 1% hazard pay may be applied to all sworn officers for hours physically worked only. I think that's.
Yeah, but in the agreement, there's a presumption clause, and that's what I think the chief asked me to chime in about.
Well,
Okay.
that's correct.
If that helps.
Okay, is there any more questions on that one?
Thank you, Mayor.
Well, okay, did we get an answer? Because I'm looking in here and I don't see it in here. So, Roseanne, are you telling us, a very direct concern. Are you telling us that the officers are considered to be doing being assigned to COVID-19 work? That's the language they use. Anytime they're working, is that the assumption? Is that what it says?
Mr. Harry, can you help me on this answer? It's on the number 3 question on the FAQs. It says that the 1% hazard pay may be applied to all sworn officers or hours physically worked only. They don't apply for vacation or any other bonus.
Okay.
That I understand, that's all sworn officers. Hours.
That's correct. That's correct.
That's correct.
That's
Okay.
exactly
Right?
So it is all the hours they work is what we're allowed to count.
Exactly.
Okay,
Right.
that's my concern. Is that, Roseanne, is that in a document that we have? Because
Yes, it is.
you seem to be referencing
Yes, it
something
is.
I haven't
The last
seen.
document on the item. FAQs, it was put together by Miami-Dade County on the August 7th.
Is that something that you've given to us, or is it part of the backup?
Yes, it's part of the backup. It's the last document.
Okay. Okay, I've seen that.
It's back. It should be there because Chuck has it.
Okay. Okay, so that was my big concern. And if we have to account for anything, to claim it back later.
Okay, we ready to vote on that?
Madam Mayor, just question I have to ask. Thank you. If you look at the resolution itself, it says, let's see, line 28, it says, whereas the Dade County Police and Blend Association and the village district are providing temporary 1% pay, shouldn't that say supplemented instead of increase? And then the same thing for section 2, it should say 1% supplemented, not increased. Yeah.
I think this is what was sent over from Miami-Dade from the county, isn't it, Roseanne? Isn't this what came from?
No, ma'am. The
Jimenez?
was sent by Miami-Dade County, but the resolution was drafted by Mr. Harry.
Yes, so Mr. Herron, should not say supplemented instead of 1% pay increase. It should not say increase, it should say supplemented. This is the first time that I'm actually looking at a document and I can actually understand it. So
that's a matter of semantics, Commissioner Samaria. It's still 1% of whatever their current salary is.
Okay, it's not going to make a difference. I just wanted to.
It's temporary.
No.
It's
Correct.
completely
That's all I
temporary.
wanted to do.
Okay, can we vote on that?
I make a motion to support, I make a motion to support resolution 2020-37 MOU with Police Benevolent Association, 1% hazardous pay.
Okay, I'll second it. Roseanne, you want to do a roll call on that?
So did we actually get an answer on the number? I'm sorry to interrupt. I heard Paul say there was a calculation of $89,000 to date. I'm not sure what that date is.
That was not with the limited area. That was from the beginning of the year.
And it also included all personnel. So that's not going to be the number.
29,774 was for police officers.
Correct.
Right.
So we have the outside edge of the number calculated, and as the interpretation is determined, it'll shrink down. So the maximum exposure is about 90,000, worst case scenario.
Okay, thank you. I also had
But
asked.
that includes the pay only, not the Social Security and the retirement, correct?
That's whatever the template that we were provided said what they were eligible for.
Right, that's the 1% is only their salary, not any of the other things.
It's only their salary. So the village
Right.
contributes to the rest. Okay.
Right. What else, Commissioner Ross?
I also had
Another
asked.
question?
I also had asked what other cities have signed on this PBA contract, and if our administration has had any discussion with those cities.
It's
they
very,
All right, let me.
it's very fluid. Some cities are already having the meetings. They are having the meeting tonight. It does.
Okay.
Go ahead, Chief.
Okay, go ahead, Chief.
Mayor, let me just answer it so we can move on. Commissioner, we discussed, I went ahead and contacted Richard Cooper. Richard Cooper is the director of the Miami-Dade League of Cities. I hope I'm correct on that. If I'm not, my apologies to everyone.
Yes, he is.
He
Yes,
informed
he
me
is.
that to the best of his knowledge, and we had a long, lengthy conversation that not only everybody has jumped aboard, but he recommends that we do, because this is one of the venues that we have to recoup some of the dollars that are spent during the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's the answer he gave me. Besides that, I did have some conversations with other chiefs and other managers relating to this issue, and they've also put in for the funding. So so I based the majority of the information I got from Mr. Cooper.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Chief. We had a conversation early on when I suggested to you that you reach out to Richard Cooper. I'm glad you did, but I didn't know the result of that conversation, so thanks for letting me know now. Yeah, we're good.
What did you want to know about conversation, Commissioner? I'm sorry.
I suggested to you that you reach out to Richard Cooper, and I'm glad you did, but I did not know the result of that conversation until just now. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, okay.
And answering my
and
question.
I thank you for pointing me in the right direction. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, can we move forward on a vote?
Yes.
Roseanne?
Mayor Halpin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Commissioner Samaria,
Yes.
Commissioner Tudor,
Yes.
5-0, motion passed.
Okay, now can we have a motion on 2020-38?
I'd like to make a motion on resolution 2020-38 ILA with Miami-Dade County CARES Act distribution.
All right, do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Oh.
Okay, Commissioner Tudor. Is there any discussion on that?
Yes.
Commissioner Ross?
Yes, I also had several questions in that same email from August 6th that I didn't get any answers to yet. Some of it we just discussed, but it was more extensive. And does someone have information for me out from those questions?
What was the question on that?
Okay. I wanted to, first of all, confirm that the county is going to cover several things, one of which is the salary burdens on that FRS. Our commitment to the PBA that we just agreed on is for 1%, but this is the part that's the reimbursement part. So my question was, are they reimbursing all of the salary burdens that relate to that? hazard pay? That was one question.
Commissioner,
Yes?
this is John Gurn, and this is unless the chief wishes to, I think I can answer the questions that we do have the answers to your specific questions, and in order to save time, I can read them to everyone just so we can expedite the meeting.
Thank you.
Sure.
John, thank you. John, thank you.
If you have it in an email you want to forward, we can.
I will. I'll forward it to all of you all. We received the chief and I communicated with a partner of mine who's outside the state, who's the head of our COVID-19 response team. And so here I'll very briefly read the email. Has been the case with much of the guidance on the CARES Act, the requirements can sometimes be unclear and is subject to change. The guidance provides generally that expenses are permissible if they are used, one, for actions taken to respond to the public health emergency, COVID-19, only to cover costs that were not accounted for in the budget most recently approved as of March 27, 2020, and were incurred during the period that begins March 1st, 2020 and ends on December 30th, 2020. Obviously, the latter date may change. Guidance also provides that examples of permissible expenses include expenses for communication and enforcement by state, territorial, local, and tribal governments of public health orders related to COVID-19, and expenses for public safety measures undertaken in response to COVID-19. With respect to the very specific questions asked, equipment and personnel contract vendors to set up employees to telecommunicate and or Zoom from home to quarantine. Yes, these are permissible expenses if they were not otherwise contemplated or budgeted and were necessitated in order to ensure the public health and safety as a result of COVID-19. Cost of audio equipment and personnel to contract vendor to set up for the public meetings. Yes, again, these are permissible expenses if they were not otherwise contemplated or budgeted and were necessitated in order to ensure public health and safety as a result of COVID-19. Payroll cost for incident commander, a previously unbudgeted position in the village. Yes, these are permissible expenses if they were, again, were not otherwise contemplated or budgeted and were necessitated in order to ensure public health safety and to ensure public health and safety as in response to COVID-19. Hazard pay for other village personnel out on the street, code, building, public works, when enforcing health orders or maintaining sanitary conditions throughout the village. Yes, these are permissible expenses, again, as they weren't otherwise contemplated or budgeted and are in response to, obviously, the COVID-19 situation. Repurpose personnel to address COVID-19 concerns, i.e. public safety personnel coordinating meal deliveries or distribution of PPE to elderly residents, clerk and other staff communications regarding COVID-19 advisories or health orders through email, phone, or regular mail. Frankly, we also discussed any time that the village attorney has spent on addressing COVID-19 issues, and we do separate those expenses out. Again, as long as the cost was not accounted for in the most recently approved budget, and the cost is for substantially different use from any expected use of funds in such a line item, allotment, or allocation, specifically to COVID-19, yes, they are reimbursable expenses. And addressing what would qualify as a substantially different use for purposes of the fund eligibility, the guidance states that costs incurred for a substantially different use include, but are not necessarily limited to, costs of personnel and services that were budgeted in the most recently approved budget, but which due entirely to the COVID-19 public health emergency have been diverted to substantially different functions. This would include, for example, the cost of redeploying corrections facility staff to enable compliance with COVID-19 public health precautions. Obviously, in our case, the police department personnel to address COVID-19 enforcement, enhanced sanitation, or enforcing social distancing measures. The cost of redeploying police to support management and enforcement of stay-at-home orders, or the cost of diverting educational support staff or faculty to develop online learning capabilities. In the context of we previously discussed, count staff to post the COVID-19 advisories and time spent on developing the emergency orders that have been issued or signed by the mayor, and again, information technology support that's not part of the staff or and necessitated by COVID-19. With regards to the question about the salary reimbursement, it is all the employment burdens are in fact also reimbursable. It's not just the salary, it's whatever we expend in furtherance of the COVID-19 response by staff at all levels.
Great.
Okay, if I can explain to you, this is the $100 million that Mayor Jimenez has allocated towards municipalities. Excuse me. They have not said that they are going to they're going to go through everything. We have already submitted our expenses so far. And this is part of that. I don't know that it's really part of the 1%, John. I think that is going to be separate for the county on the 1%. Do you know, Chief, if that's going to be separate or from the other part?
Yes.
Right, it's separate. It's a separate funding that I believe Mayor Jimenez is going to be doing. So I know that they will not consider our expenses so far on the special thing that we have if we do not have this in. So they aren't even going over this until this. Is that correct, Roseanne? Did they tell you that? Ms. Moon told you that?
Yes, it's separated. The 1% is something separated because.
Yeah, it's separated from this CARES Act. The CARES Act is coming under the $100 million that Carlos Jimenez has put towards all municipalities. That was after the mayors kind of threatened to sue him.
Everything that Mr. Harry mentioned there on the email that he just forwarded, it's under the account line of COVID-19. So every expense we are putting there.
Right. So do we have any other questions on that?
I have one last question. So you mentioned that we've already submitted our expenses, but we learned right now, a few minutes ago, about expenses that may not have been considered, and now we know are available for reimbursement. I don't know what was requested, but is it possible to amend that request so that we capture some of these other things like.
Roseanne already has that information and has to do a projected amount of money.
That's an ongoing effort.
Can I finish a sentence? Could I finish a sentence?
Go ahead.
If we've already made an application and we didn't even know that some of these things were reimbursable, how are we going to now recapture that?
It's not a problem. The 1% for the police department is separate from this.
I'm talking about the 1%. I'm talking about some of the expenses, setting up staff when they were working from home in the early days, some of the expenses of setting up this entire Zoom program that we're operating under now. There are multiple things that I was asking, are they reimbursable? I was asking for a reason because I wanted us to be able to capture as much as we can to recover. Some of the expenses for repurposed employees, I didn't know that that was available. Did the administration know that was available? Are those things that are included in our application so far? These
Why
are
don't
things.
we ask Roseanne because she submitted it. Roseanne?
Yes, all those expenses related to the fact that we have to do Zoom meetings and purchase of PPE and even the cleaning of the buildings, everything was put on the line account of COVID-19, and we submitted. I asked it, and Paul provided, finance provided a initial report as Ms. Moon asked for, and we put everything on that line account that was related to COVID-19. Personnel is another story now that we have this 1% hazard pay.
There were
But it does say, this is my,
there were personnel expenses. Let's forget about the 1% PBA agreement.
Okay.
There were, because as you say, that's a separate item,
Right.
separate program.
Right.
I think it's probably included in this, but for sake of argument, there are other
can
personnel.
I interject there, Rox? Because since you just said that, let me just interject here, because I have the same concern that you do, because in the MOU with the you know, regarding the 1%, it says, I'm reading it, it says, for which the village is eligible for reimbursement under CARES. It says it there. So that's why unless I'm misunderstanding something, I'm kind of hung up on that too, because it says it's under CARES.
Right. And you're right, because one thing is the agreement with the PPA, and that amends the collective bargaining agreement. This, what we're talking about now, is our agreement with the county, and that is a full umbrella of everything COVID related and CARES related.
Exactly. That's what scoops it all up. One thing is just agreeing to pay people. The other thing is how all the money is going to be reimbursed, including that. It says it very clearly, for which the village is eligible for reimbursement under CARES, and that's regarding the 1% police. So I agree that according to my understanding of what I keep reading here, it is all from one fund.
Okay. Let me, Madam Mayor, are you there?
Go ahead, Chief.
All right, so the CARES Act is one act, and there's different components to that act, okay? So let's just, the 1% component was something that was struck in order to provide hazardous pay. It was an agreement that was presented to the Police Benevolent Association. And I think we've already discussed that at nauseam. So let's take that off the table. Now we're talking about the interlocal agreement. The interlocal agreement is an agreement that we're going to be entering into with the county for reimbursement for additional funding for COVID-related issues, which include salaries, which includes attorneys, which include that, which is the point of Commissioner Ross's question is, if we submitted either projections, which I don't know the answer to that, or and maybe Paul can answer it because it's all over the place. If we submitted projections or did we submit proposal, I wasn't aware of any submittal, or are we just agreeing to entering into this local agreement and nothing's been submitted? I think that's where this question is going. Paul, have we submitted something to the county already?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, well, on the
but numbers, I'm talking numbers.
Exactly.
Did we submit
the initial report? It was very summarized, very small. I spoke with Ms. Moon over the phone, and I asked which personnel should we include. At this point, we didn't know anything about 1% hazard pay.
Right.
And she said only to include the people that worked for COVID-19. And the only personnel that we could identify working 24/7 with the COVID-19 would be the emergency incident commander, Chief Cabrera, and the interim manager.
Yeah, but that's salary. That's salary. What the question? That's salary. The question is that still, those are projections for salary.
Exactly.
Did we submit, the administration submit already for the other covered items under this interlocal agreement?
Under the same report, right, Paul?
There were there were no projections supplied in the last data call.
That was on the account line already, the expense that incurred already.
Right. There were no projections going into the future.
No projections. Sorry.
So the question to the answer is, we can, if once we enter into this agreement, we can provide the expenses, the actual expenses, and for as we accrue them, or the ones we have for these COVID-related items, correct?
Exactly, and now we have a period that, because on the previous report, it was a very short period, and they were talking about the expense already incurred. And now we're talking the more extensive period, and then we can work with the projection.
But Roseanne, if, again, and I hate to keep harping on this, but when you're talking about the things that you will be claiming through CARES, I believe you are to claim the 1% that we just voted to approve. Because in the MOU for that 1%, it says that's where the money is coming from. I mean, it's in the whereases, it's all, the CARES Act is all over that thing. It's saying that the CARES Act is providing relief to local governments related to COVID, and that that they're asking us to give a 1% pay increase for which we're eligible for reimbursement under CARES. So these are not two separate things from what I'm reading. I'm looking right at it. It says one thing we did tonight already was we approved the 1%. A completely separate thing is all the money we're going to claim for reimbursement under the CARES Act, and one of those things is the 1%. And according to what John just told us, all the affiliated expenses that come with salary, Social Security, retirement, all these other things that come along for that ride, plus Zoom meetings and whatever else you're keeping track of. So I believe it's all of one.
You're correct, Commissioner, you're correct. What we agreed on today was to piggyback and agree upon the PBA agreement to be able to do the 1% pay. Now that we've done that, you're absolutely correct. When we submit all the totals, we inform them of the
agreement
expenses incurred relating to the 1% and everything else. You're absolutely correct.
Okay. Okay, so now back to Rox's very valid point, and that is that you've already claimed some expenses for a certain period of time. We need to know how we go back and amend that, because you're about to retroactively pay your entire police force a 1% pay increase all the way back to March 1st. So that's March, April, May, June, July. For 5.5 months, you're going to retroactively pay them that extra 1%. Then you will continue to pay them that 1% through the end of December. So we're going to go in the hole here, really, not in the hole, but we're about to fork out a whole lot of money to the police force of that 1%, and we have to be able to claim that, I would hope, as soon as possible. So you've already started claiming money, was Rox's point. We need to make sure that we now scoop up everything that should be claimed in that.
Yeah. And the reports are not, the reports, as you can see on those agreements, we don't have a procedure for the reports yet. So now after the agreements, then we can start, maybe they're gonna send soon the procedures to report and to submit the expenses.
Oh, I understood that you said you had already claimed some.
Yes, because they asked for a preliminary report that was very, it was an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay. Okay.
That's like they were trying to expedite the process.
Understood. So we need to make sure that we do claim that 1%, because I assume there's going to be a lump sum 1% on the next payroll now, all the way back to March 1st. Is that how you're going to do it, Roseanne?
Or we don't know how long this thing is going to take it, and you might have to submit reports like every quarter, or I don't know.
So I'm talking now about how you're going to pay the police, because this is retroactive to March 1st.
Oh, yes.
So you owe them. Yeah. So are you going to do a lump sum payment to the entire police force on the next payroll?
I don't know how we have to submit the reports yet.
They're appointing a special person to work on this in Miami-Dade County, so. And they haven't.
I'm not asking how you're going to report it. I'm asking when you're going to start paying them.
When we have the agreement in place, and we have more secured what is going on with the reports, then we have to do retroactive for sure.
Okay. If I may, commissioners, if you read the interlocal agreement and as it relates to this issue that you all currently were discussing on page 34 of the agenda and the document itself, this is an ongoing process, and so you know there's a back and forth. There's some very specific language that If for whatever reason the county deems the information that any municipality has submitted under this ILA lacks the appropriate information, then we have to resubmit. And it does, the time period is through the December 2020. So there's an anticipation under this agreement, and it's obviously subject to the availability of the funding, that this is going to be an ongoing process. So not only do we have the opportunity to capture past expenditures, as has just been discussed, but certainly we have the opportunity, hopefully, to capture future expenses, again, subject to the availability of funding. So it is an ongoing process. And if for whatever reason, we at some point in time identify an eligible expense that we haven't previously submitted for, then obviously we will do so as we continue to submit a request for reimbursement to the county under this ILA.
Any other questions? Are we ready for a vote? Hey, Roseanne, would you call the roll on that?
Well, okay.
Okay, Mayor Hopping,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross. Commissioner Ross, you're muted.
Yes.
Commissioner Samaria,
Yes.
Commissioner Tudor,
Yes.
thank you. 5-0, motion passed.
Hey, John, do you want to do 6C, 2020-39? And you're muted, John, also.
I'm getting to it. Give me a moment.
Yeah, there you go.
And Resolution 2020-39, a resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, approving a second amendment to the agreement between the Village of Biscayne Park and Calvin Giordano and Associates for the provision of building plan review and inspection services and municipal planning department services, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Okay. Do we have a motion to pass that for the resolution 2020?
I have a motion for discussion.
I'll
Go
second.
ahead. Okay. Who wants to speak first? You, Vice Mayor Kennedy? Is that you?
Sure. I have a couple of quick things. First of all, thanks to Ross for calling to everyone's attention at the last meeting that this contract was expiring this calendar month, and I think that was the initial reason for calling this special meeting, or it was one of the reasons at least. So thanks for catching that, Ross. I brought something to Roseanne's attention today that I just want to make sure is taken care of, and that is that the actual extension of the agreement has the wrong year. It says it's extended to the year 2019. It needs to be extended to August 31st, 2021. So we need to make sure that's taken care of before this thing is signed. This is probably not the time to talk about it now because it was already done, but we have a 5-year contract with this company that allows them to reset the fees every year. So we're locked into a contract, but we're not locked into a fee schedule or a split of the money. So I'm not sure exactly what the benefit of having a 5-year contract is if they can just change it every year and we have to renegotiate. So we need to talk about this new fee schedule that was slipped in there. Well, that sounds terrible. No one slipped it in, I don't think. But I just received it a couple of hours ago. So we're having a meeting about something that I've barely had time to even consider. I received it in the middle of a workday. So this is pretty important stuff. So I hope somebody who has a better understanding of this is prepared to discuss the fee schedule that's put in there because it's dramatically different.
I believe we have somebody from Giordano on, don't we?
Yes, good evening, Madam Mayor and Village Council. This is Matthew Causey. I'm the Vice President of Operations for Calvin Giordano and Associates and MT Causey. And the reason for the increase is when we originally set into contract with the village, you guys had an on staff plumbing inspector. So I'm not sure what happened to the plumbing inspector, but we've since taken over those duties, and it's increased our cost. And then on top of that, with rising labor costs, it kind of sends us into what we would like to do is add a 10% increase.
Okay, does anybody have Commissioner Ross?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's a 5-year, just to respond to Commissioner Kennedy's question, Mac, it's a 5-year contract, but we don't have to renew every year. We can do another RFP and opt out, although I think that the relationship has been working very well from the reports that I hear back. So I'm not sure that I would want to alter that. I was disappointed that the village did not have an advocate to negotiate on its behalf. And so what Calvin Giordano offered, we're just accepting it because we don't have an advocate. And I understand that prices increase and costs of labor increases, and I didn't know that there was a switchover of the added plumbing, but that would have also brought with it the plumbing permits. So that in itself should have increased the pot to split. And the split was 65-35 before. I was disappointed that in the introductory memo, the administration didn't point these changes out to us. So, and I actually had to dig deep into the minutes of the meeting from 2018 when the contract was first approved in order to find that first rate sheet to compare to what is being offered now. So that's a lot of homework for me to do. I want to make sure that we're doing things right. But, you know, other people in the administration should be really facilitating this for us and presenting with the information that we need in order to make an informed decision. I still don't know what the dollar impact is, and probably our finance director wasn't even aware that this was going to be have a fiscal impact in order to give us that number. It's only going to impact for 1 month, the month of September in the current budget, but in the budget that we're going to talk about if we ever get through this meeting, there's going to be an impact there as well. And so administration needs to figure out how we're going to make up that difference, because the building department is supposed to run revenue neutral and cost neutral. The building department should be covered by the permitting fees and other charges. So there has to be discussion about raising those charges now that we are sort of forced into accepting this new arrangement.
Ms. Ross, if I may, you won't be impacted through September, a month of this fiscal year. It would start at the new agreement.
Yeah, what I read is that the new agreement starts September 1.
Right.
And our fiscal year goes through September 31.
Okay, I apologize. I thought it went through September 31, the original agreement.
Yeah, October 1 starts the fiscal year. And while I have you on the line, I also want to say and emphasize that we had a very fragmented building department with inspectors being independent contractors, and it was hard to get consistent service from those, even though they were all professionals and licensed. So I appreciate that we signed with your company and that the services that they're providing are there for us all the time. If one inspector's not working out, another one has been put in. And from my understanding, it's been a really good relationship. So thank you. Thank you for your professional services. I hope that we can continue them. But
I would agree with that. We've it's been a pleasure working for the village, and like I said, an issue, we stand up and take care of it.
Yeah, I mean, particularly, I remember at the time when we were facing a storm and preparing for the storm, and the building official was right out here helping us to make sure that all those construction sites were secured and giving services under very stressful time. So that's all good. I hope we can continue, but we need to figure out how to make it work.
So I've run some analysis, and it looks like the increase would be roughly about $18,000 per year, roughly off of the permit revenue that you're currently getting. So, like I said, with the added plumbing inspector that I have to send and pay for the 2 days that we send them out, and basically roughly what they cost.
Okay. So we need to figure out on our end how we're going to structure our permitting fees to cover that expense.
And we can work with you on that and review your fee sheet and see if there's some things we can do. The only issue is that a lot of times that cost, goes directly to your constituent. So we have to be mindful of that. But we can help you evaluate your fees.
Wow, that's terrific. I really hope the administration takes you up on that offer, because we haven't reviewed the fees in probably 4 years, and as you say, do increase every year.
Yes.
So thank you for that, and I hope the administration takes note of it and works with you.
Any other questions?
So
Commissioner Tudor,
we
we
have
haven't
to-
heard from you.
Hey, Kennedy, can I say something?
Oh,
You can,
sure.
on your phone, if you have something near your phone that comes the sound, it's something scratchy all the time.
Who
It's
is
my
that?
husband unloading the dishwasher. It's me.
No.
Dan's unloading the dishwasher in the other room.
No, it's looks like something very near the phone, the sound, but that's fine.
I don't know.
Commissioner Tudor, do you have any questions on this?
No, Mayor.
Okay, Commissioner Samaria?
No, I just want to say the same thing with Commissioner Morse. I have checked with staff at the Village Hall, and they seem to be very happy with your company. So
It works very well.
I want to thank you for what your company has done, and we'll look forward to working with you in the future. So again, I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. We look forward to a continued relationship also.
May I add something, Ginny?
Sure, go ahead, Commissioner Kennedy.
I'm glad that everyone's happy with the service that we're getting, and from all indications, it's been a very good relationship. Set that aside, I think it's important to note that we're going to have to approve a contract extension here that has makes a significant difference in our revenue from this, and literally we received it hours ago. And to Rox's point, it was not brought to our attention. Rox brought it to our attention that this was about to expire. We're just now seeing something that is dramatically different, and none of us had time to really seriously chew it up and to ask questions. And the village certainly did not have time and an opportunity to try to negotiate anything. So we are literally backed into a corner here on this. And for anyone in this meeting or who watches it later who doesn't understand why we need a credentialed professional manager to run this village, here is a shining example of that. Because this should have been handled months ago. The process should have started months ago. And all of this information should have been brought to us after a good negotiation already took place. And we wouldn't be sitting here basically having our hands forced. We can't postpone it. We won't have a contract in 17 days if we postpone this.
Madam Mayor, Mr. McDonald, what I can do, because of the confusion with the managers, what I can do is I can do a 60-day extension on the current rates. And then we can do an analysis, because we do not ever want you to feel like you've been backed in a corner. Not our intention.
That's a very nice offer, Matt. May I ask you one more favor along those lines? We're in the process of hiring a village manager. We have an ad out, we have a selection process that we've all decided upon. So we're now, we're chugging now on hiring a new manager, and we got a bunch of applicants. Would you consider extending the contract until we hire that manager, and then give that person 60 days to go through due diligence with you and to look at this more closely, because that person can't jump in and handle this day one. But give us a minute to just continue with our agreement as it is right now. Let us hire somebody, and then give us 60 days. And after 60 days, we've got to agree to something with you. Would you be willing to do that for us?
Well, I'd absolutely be doing
and that
it.
person knowing, I'm sorry?
I'd be willing to do it. We'd have to have a ceiling on that. I mean, because if you guys can't find a fit manager in a solid year, then I've got superiors also,
Okay. Then let's say we could, well, unless someone else wants to throw a date out there. Rox, do you want to jump in? What do you think would be a reasonable deadline for us to hire someone? And by the way, that person would know full well that one of their first things they would have to do is handle this negotiation with you, Matt. They would know it's a top priority.
May I add something?
Roseanne?
Mr. Kozler, did David Hernandez start the conversation with you?
Yes, a couple of months ago. So we did our due diligence, but again, I know that you guys are in limbo with the manager, and we do not want the town, or I'm sorry, the village, to feel like we backed him in a corner. That is not our intent. And we're not asking.
And I don't think you guys did anything intentionally nefarious here. Roseanne, I'm glad that you informed us that David was in fact negotiating with them. I was never informed of that. He never in any of his reports, he never mentioned it to me. So so I'm glad that you are now tell us the day that we have to vote on this, that in fact was taking place.
Yeah, I just found out.
Okay, well, so none of us knew.
Can we have a 90-day ceiling on this?
I think we need more than 90 days. I think we need until January 1st.
Well, I don't know that, Mr. Corsley, is that?
Well, let me confer with my superiors and make sure. I am authorized. I can do the 60-day extension, or I can even do a 90-day. I can do a 90-day extension on the contract. Within that 90 days, I can have a qualified building official come down and evaluate your fees and get some type of resolution going. And at that point, we would have to sit down and see what we could do in the event that you didn't hire a manager.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. I think, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Samaria, go ahead.
Yeah, point of order. I tend to agree with Commissioner, Vice Mayor Kennedy. I think January would be about the right time, because that would give forward within the time to find a city manager, and also for the 60 days, if if they're willing to go along with that.
Matt, may I make a compromise with you? And I can't make it, but may I suggest a compromise? Would you give us 90 days to hire a manager, at which point we then determine how much more time that person will need with you, that they would then communicate with you and they would pick this up? But if we haven't hired someone within the next 90 days, then this commission would be required to come to an agreement with you directly and close it out immediately.
That would be acceptable.
So that would give us, guys, commissioners, that would give us, it's August 13th, September, October, November. We have until the middle of November to hire a manager. If we can do that, then that person will be able to go to Matt and negotiate something.
Vice Mayor or Mayor, can I interject, please? Sure. Just from a practical standpoint, you're going to adopt a budget with fees in it one way or the other. You can adopt a budget, but because these fees have a built-in recovery to them, there really isn't a budgetary risk to entering into this agreement with this firm, because if putting on a hat as a manager would appreciate having something at least stable and not up in the air. And then any of your contracts can be negotiated and reopened at any time. That's the nature of government contracts. So I think you're in a better position financially to have a solid base, knowing these fees, and then reviewing your fees, reviewing it all in one package, and then making an adjustment all in one swoop. If you do it and put it all on a new manager, I think you're sort of putting it upside down.
But Paul, budgeted money and actual money are two different things. We're talking about spending a whole lot more money right now. If we can give ourselves that 90 days, get someone hired and let them handle it from there, we could end up no worse than we are now. The budget process is an entirely separate conversation. We can budget for whatever we want to account for what we think might happen in the future during the course of the fiscal year if we anticipate that change will take place. Those are two completely separate things. I'm talking about saving some money right now and getting this done properly.
I think, though, Mr. McDonald, the thing we need to find out is to make sure that you're not going to be upside down and paying outside of the permit fees. And I think it's a simple exercise that we could probably work with John Paul, which, by the way, is a great, great guy. He does a good job. So we can see what the permit fees run like, and then you guys can decide what your actual cost is for John Paul and any ancillary cost for the building department, because we only take a percentage of what you collect.
If I can make a
Okay.
Roseanne? Paul is here also, and he was about to talk about this on the budget, but he can give us some input now. Paul?
I'm sorry. Were you talking to me, Roseanne?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Yes. From a budgeting standpoint, we can adopt a budget with the proposed fees, whether you agree to them in a contract or not. I think that would be prudent to budget that way, regardless, because it's a known element. But in terms of a contract, you don't have. I mean, I'm just pointing out that you can renegotiate all of it in one big package. I guess that was the crux of my point. Was there a question I didn't hear that I'm not answering?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Commissioner Ross?
Yeah, thank you. If I could make sort of a compromise, suggest that we accept Mr. Causley's very generous offer to extend for 60 days on at the current rates. And in the interim, I know the chief has at one time sent us some proposed permit fee changes that he worked up with John Paul. And maybe the chief and Jean Paul and Paul, our finance director, and Mr. Causley can work together to restructure or propose a restructure of it so that it becomes, again, a neutral function. But initially, to take the 60-day extension on the current rates, and then based on what they come together with the fees, we bring the full one-year contract before us in 2 months.
The proposal.
If I'm understanding this correctly, we start looking at new fees, and that impacts residents. Those are the fees that residents pay to get a permit, correct?
Right.
Right.
And I think I would like to try to have the new manager be involved in that conversation if possible, because if these haven't been adjusted for a long time, we could be looking at some significant adjustments in some of these permit fees, and I hear complaints that they're already too high. So,
if I may,
it's possible to.
If I may, I think that this is what Commissioner Ross was hinting at. Under the state statute that allows local governments to impose permit fees for building permits. The statute says that, and as Commissioner Ross mentioned before, is to use the term revenue neutral. And what that means is, notwithstanding the fact that some people may consider the fees to be high, they're supposed to pay for themselves. They're not supposed to be any less or any more. And the idea is that the building department pays, and the fees that are collected pay for the operation of the building department without need for being subsidized by the general fund. So if you lower your rates, or you have your rates too low, then you are directly or indirectly subsidizing your building department and your permit structure improperly. And I think that's the point that Mr. Causley is pointing to, which is give his company the opportunity to come in, look at our fee structure and what our actual building department expenditures are. So if necessary, update that fee schedule to also reflect their increased costs as well.
I understood all of that. What I'm saying is it's not a matter of just changing the fees. They want to change the split significantly as well. So it's not as simple as looking at the fee structure itself. It's the split is changing also.
Point of order.
Okay, Commissioner Samaria?
Yeah, point of order. Thank you. I agree with as originally what we had is for January, because I don't want to rush to get we have to rush to get a new city manager in 3 months just to get to accomplish this. I think he agreed to the January meeting, and I think that we should keep it at that. I don't agree with having it just for the 60 days. Thank you.
Mayor.
Yes, Chief?
I can, Commissioner Ross brought this up. I've already been looking at the fee structure for buildings, and I know Commissioner Kenny's what he's referring to. And between myself, Paul, and the representatives from Giordano, with if they're being generous enough and saying they'll work with us within the next 60 days, we can try to propose something regardless of a manager status or not, that we can present to the commission. Then we will work diligently to make sure that happens.
Okay. Well, it sounds, just in the interest of sort of getting through this item, he agreed to 90 days for us to try to hire a manager. And if you guys think, if his staff will work with our staff in the meantime, and you guys can get something done sooner than that we would all agree to, then we would agree to it, and that would be done anyway. But why don't we take him up on his offer of giving us 90 days to hire a manager and see if we make that and that person can impact this. And in the meantime, let them start the conversation between our building department and the chief and the folks from Calvin Giordano, and look at our fee schedule. And if they can come up with something that we all think makes sense and we can agree to, then we could still do it.
Okay,
right?
Mayor.
Go ahead, Chief.
So we can do both at the same time.
I just want to make sure, because I don't want to mislead and I don't want to provide misinformation. What I think the representative from Calvin Giordano and what Paul and the Commissioner Ross was saying, and what I'm alluding to is, they'll give us up to 90 days. We may come up within 30 days with something, or 45 days. This is not for what I'm discussing. Has nothing to do with a manager. I don't want to get involved in that process, nor can I. I'm just referring to this particular issue. I think if we have time and we work as a team, we can come up with the information and and answer the questions that the commissioners need answered to feel comfortable and be able to pass this item. So within 90 days, I think that's something that's obtainable. And obviously, like I've always done, if we can't accomplish, if I see there's any obstacles, we will bring it right away to the commission and say, listen, we're stuck here. So, let's have a contingency in place.
Okay, Mr. Corsley, will you agree to the 90-day extension? Is there any problem? Do we need to vote on that, a 90-day extension?
9 days extension with the current fees, right?
At the current rates.
The
So
current
by Monday,
and the current split also.
At the current split, I will have my staff send it over probably no later than Tuesday of next week. Just a 90-day extension if somebody can execute that and send it over, and then we'll work with the team and the chief to get some type of resolution and to make sure that it works out for the village's budget.
Thank you very much, Mr. Corsley. Roseanne, you want to take a vote on that?
If I may, Mayor, so the motion would be to approve a resolution that's on the table with that amendment.
Right.
So extend it 90 days. It would be November 30th.
Correct. That the current fee schedule and fee split will be extended for 90 days. Okay. After that, the new fee schedule and the new split will kick in. But obviously, also during that time period, we would have an opportunity to work with the vendor to look at our fee structure.
Okay,
you need a motion for that, Jenny?
Excuse me?
I think we need a motion. I think you need a motion for it.
Okay, a new motion?
I'll make a motion that we extend the current agreement with Calvin Giordano at the current, no, Rox? Oh, we have a motion on the floor. You're muted, Rox.
You're muted. I'm sorry.
We have a motion and a second. We just need to amend it.
We had
Yes.
a discussion,
You-
Commissioner Ross.
Make the amendments we just talked about that John articulated.
There was a motion and we need an amendment on that motion. I don't
Who made
remember
the
who
motion?
made the motion, Roseanne?
Vice Mayor Kennedy?
Okay,
Then I'd like to amend the motion to extend the contract through November 30th at the current rate and split.
Okay.
and I thank you, Commissioner Samara.
No,
Commissioner
that was,
Samara?
yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Mayor Hoffman?
yes,
Vice Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Commissioner Ross?
Yes.
Commissioner Samara?
Yes.
Commissioner Tudor?
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Thank you.
okay, resolution 2020-40.
Yes,
John,
Madam
did
Thank you,
you
Matt.
read that?
Resolution number 2020-40, resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, approving an agreement between Biscayne Park and Country Bills Lawn Maintenance, Inc. for the provision of tree planting services to implement the tree grant funding received from Miami-Dade County, providing for severability and providing for an effective date. Mr. Raymond, if I may explain very well where we started, where we are now, and the agreement that's attached for your consideration and approval.
Okay, we need a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2020-40.
I'll second it. Is there any discussion on that? Is there discussion or can we take a vote?
I actually do have a quick question. So I know there's a deadline that this is going to help us meet to get the trees in the ground. Who's going to be responsible for making sure that we make the other important deadline, and that is to get the paperwork turned into the county? I think it's November 30th, Roseanne. So who's going to be responsible for that?
Yeah, I'm working with the board and Mr. Raymond, and we have everything in place, hopefully.
Okay. Just want to make sure everyone's clear that there's a second. The first deadline is get the trees in the ground. The second deadline is to ask for the money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you want to take a vote on that, Roseanne?
Can I just make a comment?
Commissioner Ross.
I am so grateful and very appreciative for David Raymond, Barbara Kuehl, and the Park and Parkways Board. We would not be here without you, and I'm sure that you can carry it through and make it a reality for us. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I like to second that.
Yes.
There's a motion about that where I'm thinking that
No,
would
I'm
be
just-
unanimous.
Okay, Roseanne, take a vote. What?
Mayor Hoffman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Commissioner Ross?
Yes.
Commissioner Samara?
Yes.
Commissioner Tudor?
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, while we're on the topic of trees, there is the other matter of the fiscal 21 tree grant deadline, which they've moved into October. So it's a month earlier than it was last year. So if we're going to consider doing this again next year and we're going to task Parks and Parkways with putting it together, we would have to approve that at our September meeting to make the deadline. So shall we have that conversation now about what our interest is as a commission and having a tree grant for next year, because they will have some work to do here in the month of August.
Mrs. Keough, you are unmuted, but I believe the board has to discuss that first, right?
Yes.
Okay. Next item is old business.
Point of order,
Are we
Madam
going to
Mayor.
discuss it?
Yeah, point of order, Madam Mayor. I want to
Go ahead, Commissioner Samara.
think about this. While I was doing my research on the attorney's applications. I haven't interviewed any of them yet because of the deadline was just this past Monday. I came across an article that was in the Dallas Business Review. I asked the clerk, I just got it today, I asked the clerk to forward it to all the commissioners. And so I came across this article and I asked the clerk to forward to all the commissioners. I'm concerned about the article. I always believe in innocent before guilty. As a commission needs to have a discussion what this is, because this is one of 5 law firms that are going to be in the search for the village attorney. So I just think that it needs to be brought up and discussed. Doesn't have to be completely discussed tonight, but I just came across this article today when I was doing my research.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm gonna, before we respond to that, because I'm not certain what he's talking about. I didn't think we were done with the conversation about trees. I thought we had to have this discussion about the fiscal 21 tree grant so we could ask Parks and Parkways to do their work for us for the September 8th meeting. So did you not just say we would have that discussion?
No,
I thought Barbara
answered-
Kuhl said that it had to go before the board
Let's go before the board first.
Can I,
first.
I think they need direction from us.
No, they know how to do
Go ahead, Rox.
okay. So, yeah, I think that at a minimum, they need to have our commitment to support what they're going to do at a minimum. And that when we go into the budget meeting workshop, maybe we can reinforce that and set aside some dollars for that. But what I heard was the board needs to discuss it, and we need to make a decision or a resolution that tells them, please do go out and get the grant. So does that mean that at September, the board is going to present to us their recommendation? Just to close.
Well, they have an October, I wrote it down here. They have an October deadline. It's October 2nd or something. It's the beginning of October deadline. Yeah. We only have one regular commission meeting scheduled in the month of September. It's presently September 8th. So if we're going to approve it, we would have to approve it then.
Okay.
We have actually 3 scheduled meetings from September, so we can put a special commission meeting anytime.
So what I'm hearing is that board's going to meet, they're going to make their recommendations. We need to, in our workshop, make sure that we pull together as many dollars as we can so that they could take full advantage of the match from the county.
Correct.
And so we just wanted to plot that out so that at the September meeting, any one of those meetings, we can approve a resolution to move forward.
We can approve it. But I think if this commission doesn't, if we don't want a tree grant for next year, I think we need to have that conversation and tell them that now, or if we do, they should hear that from us now before they get to work on something we may not approve. So that's what I'm suggesting here, is that we have a conversation and come to an agreement about if we're going to ask them to go to this trouble or not. It's a lot of work. It turned out to be a lot of extra work because of other things that happened that I don't think had anything to do with the board. But I think they deserve some direction from us on this matter.
Roseanne, didn't you say that you were already working with
yes,
Raymond on that?
Yeah. On this current agreement. And of course, we're going to work with them, any other. Mr. Raymond, I'm going to mute you so you can, there you go. Sorry.
He's still muted.
Yeah.
You're still muted, David.
It take a little while and then, there you go. You're free.
I just wanted to add that Roseanne has really been a pleasure to work with. I've been bombarding her with emails for the last month, and she's been very responsive, as has Lewis, who's been the lead on giving me free rein here to get this done. So the way it happened last year is I had just joined the board, and a friend of mine gave me the grant announcement. I brought it to the board, and we decided to do it, and we brought it to the commission. So it came up from the board itself. So I don't know, other than the budget figure. So the board is going to meet in the next, hopefully, few weeks. That's up to Barbara to schedule the meetings. I think I don't see her on here anymore, but I would assume we're going to meet before your commission meeting on September 8th. If not, we'll let you know. In the budget, as I saw, I looked at the changes for this year. There's 2 line items for trees. There's for planting trees. There's a $20,000 line item and then there's another one that's called tree planting and end capping. I don't even know what end capping is, but anyway, there's a total of $30,000. This year, the money that we're going to expend, the $15,000, that's coming out of a $20,000 line item that I do not believe has any expenses against. It would have been nice to have some extra dollars. We did ask David Hernandez, the board did, some of the board members did ask to put in extra money, so because we didn't know what the exact cost would be. We have, right now, as I understand it, and this is, I guess Paul could clarify, I think there's $30,000 total in the budget for tree planting. My personal opinion, I think that's sufficient in terms of this grant. If we look at what we did for 60 trees, I think we could do that or more with what we have. But the board hasn't met to decide whether or not we want to do that. I'm just one member.
Okay.
I guess if I could just throw out one thing, I'm one member, but I'm the one who's doing the paperwork. I'm willing to do the paperwork if the board wants to do it. So I'll throw that in.
Okay.
Does the commission find the
I think it's a
value in
great
having?
idea.
Well, that's what I'm suggesting here is that if we all think it's a great idea, or that enough of us do, that we give them the thumbs up. I just don't like people working for no good reason, especially when they're volunteering their time. I would hate for them to go through the trouble and then have us say, no, we don't want it. So if this commission has a desire for Parks and Parkways to go get a grant to get us some more trees, we pay part of it, of course. I just think it's fair to ask them to do that and to come back with us, to us with something.
Madam Mayor, point of order. I think I agree with Commissioner Kennedy, Vice Mayor Kennedy, that I think we don't have to have a vote. We just can have a concession that consensus that we agree that we, as a commission, we would want them to go forward if.
Commissioner Tudor?
Yes, I think all we need is consensus that the commission wants the board.
And that's the whole commission.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Do you agree, Will?
Yeah. I mean, it's it's a good program to go forward with, and I think we should continue it.
Commissioner, Vice Mayor Kennedy, I want to thank you just for bringing that up. That's a good idea. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay, are we up to old business?
Yes. Okay.
Village attorney applications and Commissioner Samaria, you had the floor.
Yeah, I already mentioned that. I didn't think we were going to be hiring an attorney tonight. So
I don't think we are.
I'm just in case. I don't want people thinking. Like I said, I was doing my research for the attorney applications, and I was reading different magazines, and this is where I came across this article. Was about one of our applicants, one of the 5 applicants, and I gave it to the clerk to forward to all the commissioners. That's where they can look at it.
Are you asking her to do that now?
Yes.
I'll do that.
And to the attorney too. Like I said, it's just to bring it up to them, and then at the next commission meeting after the attorney looks at it and so on, and the commissioners look at it, that we can discuss it. Thank you.
Mayor and Commission, I'm certainly more than willing to address the article and any questions you may have, whether or not you want to do it now or in some other forum or other process. It's up to you all. But to the extent that you have any questions regarding the article and the allegations in it, I'm certainly can address them at this moment if you so wish.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, if the attorney is willing to discuss it tonight, I have no problem. Again, I just didn't want, that's why I didn't mention his law firm. I didn't want to think that I'm throwing this something at him. This was just something that I came across, and I wanted to give the attorney a chance to look at it, and the commissioners to look at it. So, but if he's willing to discuss it tonight, I'm willing to discuss
And I appreciate the Commissioner Samaria's offer and circulating the information. Very briefly, if you read the article in its entirety, and I see Mr. Or Commissioner Kennedy looking at it sideways like it came through.
Sideways on my screen.
Obviously, a firm of our size, Fox Rothschild is in over half the states in the country, with multiple offices in some states, including Florida. We have a very large footprint and a very diverse practice. I would like to point out, if you read the article in its entirety, number one, the allegations are primarily directed at an attorney that is no longer at Fox Rothschild, but rather is an individual who used to be a member of my firm, but is no longer. However, in an attempt to try and reach as many deep pockets as possible, the plaintiffs have sued not only the attorney individually in his current firm, but are reaching backward in an attempt to try and obtain funds or seek compensation from Fox Rothschild. But to the point, the practice and the issues that have been raised in the lawsuit, and by the way, again, if you read the article, you'll notice this class action lawsuit where the people are obviously looking for money. And so they're going to try and name as many defendants as possible and as many deep pockets as possible. And ultimately, the issue will in fact play out in the normal course of any litigation through the court system and ultimately through trial and or settlement. And certainly to the extent that I continue to be your attorney and in the future, to the extent that you have any questions regarding that ongoing litigation, I will keep all of you posted on its progress. But to the issue at hand is that this litigation and the issues raised in it have nothing to do with either myself, the current partners at our firm, or the work that we would be doing for this village on its behalf. They have no relationship to anything that we do for you all. And so it is my belief and my opinion, and well-founded opinion, I believe, that this will have no impact whatsoever on the provision of services by my firm and by myself to the village if we continue to be your village attorney into the future. And I'll answer any questions.
I just have one question for you, John.
Yes,
on the attorney that you said isn't working anymore, why did he leave your company? Was he
to the best of my knowledge, he left
asked to
voluntarily.
leave, or I'm sorry?
To the best of my knowledge, he left voluntarily on his own to go to another firm.
Madam
One
Mayor?
is the other law firm, the DLA Piper.
Okay, Commissioner Tudor?
Yeah, I hate to interrupt real quick, but I had a chance to actually look at the article. And in the article, it discusses that there's a case that was brought by the Miami Regional Office of the Securities and Exchange Commission. So because of that, and because of the fact that that's where I work, I probably need to recuse myself from any of this discussion.
Okay. Okay.
So I was, yeah,
that would be a good.
Yeah, I wish I would have seen it as I went through the article. I'm like, oh, hold up a second.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Commissioner Tudor, under the applicable provisions of the ethics rule, you actually have to now absent yourself from this discussion and fill out the forms with the clerk at your earliest convenience. But
yeah, I was going to let Roseanne know. I'm going to stop by Village Hall tomorrow to fill out that form.
But to the extent that the conversation continues with regards to this particular issue and its impact upon the selection of the village attorney, you will have to absent yourself from the Zoom meeting.
Okay. Is there any other questions? Let's just ask that. Are there any other questions for Mr. Herron?
If I could suggest that someone, I mean, since Commissioner Tudor has to sign off.
Commissioner Tudor's got to get.
someone could text him when we're done with this discussion and he'll come back on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
let me see how I can, Roseanne, can you log me off or?
There's a little button that says
Down
leave.
the bottom right, it says leave. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I hope to see y'all pretty soon.
And then I'll send you a message to come back.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Again, so any additional questions that I can try and answer?
Commissioner Ross, you have a question?
Yeah,
Commissioner.
John,
Yes.
attorney.
Commissioner Ross is trying to speak first.
Was that the chief?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that's for the chief. Commissioner Ross.
Yeah. Well, let's hear from the chief.
I was the chief.
Go ahead, Chief.
No, Commissioner, absolutely not. Go ahead. You have the floor.
Okay. So, John, how many lawyers are at Fox Rothschild?
About 1,000.
In Florida?
No, across the country.
So this is the Florida case, though.
In Florida, we probably have around 60 attorneys.
Okay.
Oh, I thought I read in the article the attorney was out in LA.
He is. He's with the office, the Los Angeles office of DLA Piper, which is another very large law firm.
Okay. Working
And never practiced, by the way, wasn't present here to the best of my knowledge, in either of our Florida offices.
Yeah. Working in law firms for the past 40 years. I know the practice is, well, in any industry, you have litigation that comes up and there are always cases being filed. We have cases filed against the village ourselves. So that kind of situation happens. This area of practice, the SEC law, is fraught with those types of class action lawsuits. You see them very commonly. We're minor investors, and every couple of times a year we get some notice about a class action lawsuit for some stocks or some holdings that we had. So it's not uncommon, and particularly in such a large firm. But I think that this has very little to do with municipal law and the attorney that is presently acting or taking the part of our village attorney as on an interim basis. We have had an extensive search, an extended opening and offering of that position, and still only received 5 responses. John Herron has been through the process with us before, and we selected him previously to be a village attorney. Unfortunately, that went sideways, and it didn't turn out well for the village when they decided to jump to somebody else. We had that discussion at our last meeting, and John was able to get us a settlement and a compromise of the fees, so they were reduced. I think that it's time that we stop kicking the can down the road. It's time that we create stability rather than extend contracts and work on an interim basis and push off things and push off decisions. And remember, this is an at-will position. So anytime a majority of the commission decides that they're not happy with the village attorney's product, then it opens a new process and they look for somebody else. But we're in a very tenuous spot as far as our executive staff is and our executive level hires are. And it would be my preference. I think that it's in the best interest of the village to go ahead and place John as our village attorney and put an end to this search and move on to other more pressing business.
Well, I don't agree. Roseanne, did you send a notice to Tudor to come back? Since we're not discussing
Well, I
article?
haven't had a chance to say anything yet, and actually I do have some questions.
Yeah, I want to.
Yeah, and
Oh, okay, go ahead, Commissioner Kennedy.
Okay, so first of all, boy, the drama and intrigue sometimes are quite interesting. So I knew nothing about this literally until Dan brought it up, and it showed up in my email, and I turned my head sideways and read it very quickly. Roseanne, could you please get a clean copy of that and send out to all of us? It's barely legible. There are sections that I could not read, so I cannot consider that to be the, what I'm going to consider here. So it doesn't impact what my opinion is here right now, because I don't know enough about it. But John, I would like to ask you one question about that person. Whatever he did, because again, I skimmed an article that I could barely read. Whatever is alleged that he did, was it while he was an employee of your firm or after he left your firm?
I believe both.
Okay.
I can't.
Okay. So
past and present conduct.
Okay. Very good. So again, it's not gonna change my opinion on anything this evening. I am prepared to suggest that we interview 2 of the candidates, and I would also suggest that we do it very quickly, that we commit to conducting interviews for candidates in the month of October and to make a decision at our September 8th meeting. I agree with what Rock said about we need to stop kicking the can down the road. But in this case, it's important enough that I think we need to just take a minute and make sure we're looking at all the candidates that we're happy with. So I think it would be appropriate to bring Will back to the meeting if we're done discussing the article, and to discuss which candidates everyone's happy or interested in interviewing, come to an agreement on that, set those interviews up as quickly as we can and move forward. Rox brings up another very good point. This is not an employee. We can terminate the attorney anytime we want to. We did a couple of months ago. So we can make a change whenever we need to. So if we make a decision that we're not happy with, we look for another one and we move on. But we have pressing matters and we need to move forward. So I think we should bring Will back to the meeting, do a round robin real quickly and say who's interested in interviewing which candidates, and bring those people in and let's go.
But Vice Mayor Kennedy, we didn't terminate that attorney. They terminated us, just to correct you.
Well, we released them from their notice. We in essence did.
Right, but they terminated
told them
us.
they could
But
leave.
they beat us to it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, can you get Commissioner Tudor back?
Yeah, I sent a text to him. Let me call also.
Okay.
Yeah, he's here. Let me admit him. Got it? He's in.
Okay. Welcome back, Commissioner Tudor. Okay, how are we going to review that of who we want to bring back?
Well, I think it could be as simple as each of us just name anybody that we're interested in interviewing and see where we kind of stand there, come to a consensus on who we call in for interviews, have Roseanne set it up ASAP next week, hopefully, conduct some interviews and then meet and discuss it and make a decision.
Well, Madam Mayor, I like to interview all 5. I mean, I have questions that I didn't participate in interviewing any of the candidates because the deadline was still on. Deadline ended Monday. I have questions that I want.
I don't think we're supposed to interview
we were to interview anybody, Dan. We were
not
to
supposed to talk
consider
to
the
them.
resumes, have this conversation, decide who we want to interview as a group, and then pull them in for public interviews. That's the process.
Okay.
We were not doing. Did you talk to any of them, Dan?
No, I have not. I talked to our president attorney, of course. Because he's our attorney.
Do we want to eliminate any of these people? I do have one that I would like to eliminate, and that would be Norman Powell.
I'll go next, and I'll do mine differently. I would like to interview Neighbors Giblin and Nickerson and Fox Rothschild, those 2 firms. Those are the only 2 that I'm interested in interviewing.
I'm sorry, say again, Vice Mayor?
Edward Dion from Neighbors Giblin and Nickerson and Fox Rothschild. Those are the two firms I would like to interview.
Okay.
Okay, I would like to interview Rafael Suarez, Fox Rothschild, and the Neighbors Giblin and Nickerson.
Me by surprise on this.
And who do you want to interview?
I really want to interview all of them. I haven't talked to any of them. I mean, okay. The last, okay. No, I don't think it's funny. I mean, it's, you know, I waited into the deadline. I don't go by just what it says.
We're
in
not
papers.
supposed to talk to any of them, Dan.
Dan, we weren't to have interviewed them. None of us interviewed any of them.
I understand. So if you answer my questions, I want to talk to all 5 of them. That's my answer.
Okay, there you go. Rox, who do you want to talk to?
Are we saying that we will independently call and speak to them, or are we going to call these people in for an actual interview in front of all of us?
But we're going to call them in for an interview in front of all of us.
Right.
Then I really don't want to waste anybody else's time. I am only interested in Fox Rothschild, and I could hear from the Neighbors Giblin firm as well.
Okay.
Commissioner Tudor?
Will?
Yeah, I only have 3 that are kind of interested in interviewing. That's, of course, Fox Rothschild, Neighbors Giblin Nickerson, and the Rafael Suarez Rivas.
Okay, do you, Commissioner Samaria, do you have?
Question, Madam Mayor. I mean, yeah, Clerk, was Mr. Power the last one that came in?
No.
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 Rafael Suarez is.
Okay, okay, if you're gonna, okay, Rafael, okay, I want Fox, Rafael Suarez, and we're gonna pick 3. I really don't.
You don't have to pick 3. Just pick who you want. Who you want to meet.
Vice Mayor, could you repeat the ones that you chose before Commissioner Samaria finished the list?
Fox Rothschild, Neighbors Giblin Nickerson. I'm keeping a tally here of how many people voted for each one, Roseanne, if that helps you.
Okay, thank you.
Will, you said you're still thinking? Or I'm sorry, Will, Dan.
We're waiting for Dan.
Neighbors, Fox, and the last one that came in, which was, you said was Brooks? Is it not?
Suarez.
Suarez. The last one that came in is I want to interview that.
Rafael Suarez.
So Fox, Suarez, and Neighbors.
Okay, so Fox Rothschild, everybody picked that one. So that's 505. Neighbors Giblin Nickerson is 505. Suarez was 3 of 5, and the others didn't get any.
Right.
So only 3 firms got votes. Do you want to bring all 3 in, or do you want to bring in the top 2, which would be Fox Rothschild? Look, 2 of them have unanimous interest in.
The majority, 3 of them got three names.
Madam
So I'd
Mayor.
like all 3 brought in, but separately.
Of course.
Madam Mayor, are we also going to
they'd be brought in separate.
interview these individuals before they come to the commission meeting on our own?
I don't think so. No,
So we can't?
we shouldn't. We should interview them at a meeting of just interviewing them.
And which meeting it would gonna be?
Well, I think we need to call a special meeting for this. So let's decide on who we're going to interview first. There are only 3 firms that got votes. 2 of them were unanimous, 5 of 5, and 1 was 3 of 5. So do you want to bring them all in, or do you want to bring in the 2 that got unanimous interest?
No, I think all 3 should be brought in, or just like we did the last time, all 3 were brought in, each had a half hour, 45 minutes, whatever the commission The other two stepped out. That's the way we did it the last time.
Yeah, I think we should bring in all three.
All three should be brought in.
Okay, I'll agree with that, Will. Is there a consensus to bring in all three?
Can you repeat it again?
Yes.
Try to do the three on, please.
Fox, Rothschild,
Fox, Rothschild.
Myers, and neighbors and.
I'd be very happy to bring in the top two only, the two that had unanimous interest. But if you guys feel strongly to bring the other person in, I'll go for it. I just think this is where I think we could sort of separate the meat from the bone a little bit right there. Two of
We
them
don't
have
agree, and there's
unanimous
three of
appeal.
us. We don't agree. We want all three.
Okay, so when are we going to do this?
Well, we'll have to check on their availability.
Check on their schedules, Roseanne.
Okay.
Is there any day that's out that's not good for, for flexible?
So we have to have the schedule, the availability for the three of them for the same day. So
Okay.
let me
May I
check
make a suggestion in that regard, in the interest of expediting that process, because that can go back and forth many, many times. Because then you're going to have to find out if all of us are available when all of that. It's just too many moving parts. Why don't we agree on a date that we would prefer? Roseanne can contact them and say, this is when the commission prefers that you be available. Can you make that meeting? If they can't, then she can ask us for an alternative, or maybe we give her a second option. But I think we should try to get a date locked down so she can propose that to them and hopefully close up the process very quickly. Otherwise, she's going to be checking on too many people's schedules.
Since it's going to be, I assume this is going to be a closed meeting with just the commissioners?
It's going to be, have to be
No,
meeting.
no. Public.
It has to be a public meeting, Mayor.
I was going to suggest that we have a live meeting, since there won't be that many. If the public, it's open to the public, then they can be on Zoom, but I really wish that we could space ourselves fine if it's just the five of us with a candidate at Village Hall.
It's not, it's a public meeting. So
No, they can be
why don't
on
we pick
Zoom.
a
The
date?
public can be on Zoom.
Yeah.
I just think it's a much easier way of deciding when we see somebody in person. Does anybody else have a comment on that? Commissioner Tudor?
Yeah, I'm still, I just don't know how the logistics would work with having a live meeting with the commission and the individuals from the law firm at Village Hall. I think doing it over Zoom would work as well. But, it's up to the majority of the commission.
Commissioner Samaria?
I'd rather have it at the log cabin, but if it can't be done at the log cabin, then Zoom is going to be, we still don't know when our next commission meeting is going to be lifted. I think it's August 30th is when the governor is supposed to make his decision. So I'd rather have it in person. If we can't, then Zoom.
The governor has extended the executive order to September 30th, Mr. Harry, if I'm not.
That's correct.
Okay.
So then it has to be Zoom.
I don't think we have any business having an in-person meeting right now. We're still under an emergency order, and we're not supposed to be having crowds in rooms together. I would not be personally comfortable being there, and possibly, God forbid, I have it, giving it to someone else. I don't think we have any business meeting in person. These Zoom meetings are just dandy.
Okay, but I was talking about, 6 people, but that's okay. We can have a Zoom meeting. What about you, Commissioner?
It's not 6 people. It's 5 people. It's 5 commissioners. It's a clerk. It's an attorney, and it's candidates as well. And Caesar has to be there.
The attorney, the attorney will not be present on this one.
Yeah, the attorney won't be present except for his interview.
Okay. I don't want to be in a room full of people.
Yeah, anytime that the commission meets, more than one commissioner or 2 commissioners meet, it has to be a public meeting. We have to allow the public in.
Right, I was suggesting the public would be on Zoom. But if everybody prefers doing it on Zoom totally, that's okay.
I just full disclosure, I have seen local governments that have met in person physically and had the general public attend through Zoom.
Yeah, many cities there.
It has happened.
The hybrid way.
Did I throw out a date, the week of September 13th, any day that week, and then we can offer that to the candidates and see, try to get what availability they have.
I was hoping we could do this in August. If it's a Zoom meeting, no one, I mean, people can do it, and it's in an evening meeting. People will be doing it from their home or they'll stay at their office. I was going to suggest next Wednesday, the 19th, and see if they could be available. I mean, they're basically have already prepared themselves.
We got to give them an alternate day at least.
Yeah.
The 19th is fine. That's a good one.
I can't
You're
hear you.
suggesting the 19th? What's the alternative date that we would do? Anybody?
Well, I could do Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday of next week if you want to give them one date and then go to the next or the next. I don't think people are traveling very much right now, and a lot of people are working from home. So I think we're going to find that, and they're looking for a job. I think they're going to make themselves available to us. I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised that you probably get a yes, yes, yes from these three folks.
All right, you want to throw it out to them on the 11th, 12th, or 13th?
Of August?
Of August?
No, it'd be the 18th, 19th, or 20th.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong, right. 18th,
Yeah.
19th, and 20th.
Thursday, August 27, is that too far?
Yes, that's too far. We've got 3 days next week.
Roseanne, why don't you ask them,
19th, and
why don't you try to
20th,
make it, Roseanne, why don't you try to make it Tuesday the 18th? If you can just give them that one option, see what you can lock up, or then move on to the 19th or the 20th.
We could, John, are you available? Is there any of those times that you're not available?
No.
We can get rid of you right away, right? John?
If the commission doesn't mind, Mayor, that week of 18, 19, 20 is the last week.
That's the election.
I'm available
The elections, the 18th is the,
Yes.
I'm sorry, John, did you
And
say
the
what
code
date you're not available?
I'm available the 19th.
The code compliance board meets on the 18th. I just looked at the village calendar, so maybe we should start with the 19th and then try the 20th.
What I'm saying is that's the final week of qualification for the elections, November.
Yeah.
So I assume it's going to be quite busy.
Who will be quite busy?
Mayor and clerk, to the extent that anyone, I'm available the 19th and the 21st, not available the 20th.
Okay.
Why don't we try those two dates? Try for the 19th first and then the 21st alternately.
Good.
Will, are you available the 19th and the 21st?
Yeah, I'm just looking right now. Yeah, I'll be available after 6:30 on.
Okay. Dan, you're good?
yeah.
In our busy lives right now, we're fine.
Exactly. City ready. Ginny, you're good the 19th and the 21st?
Unless something wonderful happens, but I don't think so, so I have no problem.
Okay. Okay, so Roseanne, why don't we try, first choice would be Wednesday, August 19th. Second choice would be Friday, August 21st. Started at 6:30 either night. And what is the format here exactly for these folks? Do they come on one at a time? Do they do a presentation and then we interview them? Do we give them X amount of time? Like you get a 10-minute
That's
10 minutes to present?
Last time, each one comes, the others stay out and do a presentation, and then the commission can make any questions and can time the presentation and the questions. Or when you finish, that person leaves and we can enter the second
Roseanne, what, on the prior ones, is it about a half hour each person?
Pretty much, right, Mr. Herring, that you remember, it was like 30 minutes, 40, you know, not.
Yeah, it was, I think the format was about a 10 minutes to speak about yourself
Yeah.
and your firm and your qualifications and then 20 minutes for questions by the commissioners.
Yeah.
So it's a 30-minute per applicant, so it's in essence a 90-minute meeting. It'll take a little bit longer than that. So why don't we agree to, if it's going to be X amount of time for questions, interview questions, why don't we agree on how many minutes it is per commissioner so we aren't tripping over each other?
Right, should we schedule them for 1 hour? Over 3 hours?
I think 1 hour is good. If you give them 10-minute presentation and give us each 5 minutes, that's 25 minutes for questions plus 10, that's 35. You know it'll go longer.
So what are you suggesting? You think an hour is no good or an hour is fine?
I think an hour is good. Put them on top of the hour. If you
Right.
did one at 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, we can be done by 9:30, 10.
Yeah. That's,
Ross, you're pondering
when you
something, I
talk
can
to them, Roseanne, find out which time slot that they were available in,
Okay.
even though it's Zoom. Okay, is that, we were
Is
gonna
everybody good with
have,
that?
everybody's good, right?
Is that a consent?
Rock, Dan?
Yes.
Yep, everybody's good on that.
Are you
Okay,
hearing
then-
us, folks?
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
I hear you.
No, the Rock looks like she wanted to say something.
Well, I'm looking at the hour and it's 9 o'clock and this meeting has gone on, 2 hours too long, but we're at the end of it, hopefully.
Well, the next is your 7B. Commissioner Ross and Commissioner Kennedy.
So
What
I
did you-
want to thank everybody for being so gracious and letting me have September 1 off. Unfortunately for me, but probably fortunate for the village, my plans have changed. COVID has canceled a lot of things at hospitals, and so I am available September 1st. And I suggest that we go ahead with the full agenda on September 1st if we can, and then whatever we don't accomplish, roll over to the 8th, which is when we're going to have the budget meeting. And if we can't finish that still that day, then on the 23rd, which is the second budget meeting. So I'm fully committed for those days. I don't know if we took a vote, I guess, last time. I don't know if we need a vote, but.
I think we just
I'm not
agreed.
clear what you're saying.
Didn't we just agree to have only the one issue on the 1st?
Yes.
It wasn't a vote, right? And so that's okay. We will go back to the old format, Roseanne, on the 1st, the regular meeting.
So we'll have a full commission meeting on the 1st.
Okay?
Great.
And that was just
So we'll
an
have a full
agreement.
commission meeting and the sanitation hearing at the same time. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
the presentation is gonna
Right.
be.
Yeah, okay. That's what I didn't
One
understand.
item of the meeting.
Okay, and you wanted the, Commissioner Ross, you wanted to speak about the manager's background check?
Yeah. I'm being told that we have so far 15 applicants for manager, and the administration's plan is to do a thorough background check on every applicant. I have been through a couple of these processes before, and there's never been a thorough background check of every applicant, because oftentimes there are people that are not really, either fall off because they don't meet the qualifications or are not going to be considered. I would rather see us invest the money in a full background check for a short list. And because we have decided that we may bring in someone that was that was removed by both committees, we may pick someone that was discarded before and bring them back into the process, that we do that search once the commission has a short list. Once we've settled on that short list of people, that'll be 3 or 5 or however many, I hope not more than that, that the background check be done on those people and that it be a thorough check. They're much easier to do right now than they were in the past. You can get a background check in 3 or 4 days. So that's what I'm proposing, that we don't expend. I mean, we had a hard time spending $400 for an ad. Are we really going to spend $400 or $500 for a background check on 15 or more applicants?
Well, I think that one of the things that they have to consent to a background check. And if they're not serious, they're not going to consent to a background check. So that's an automatic that we won't be doing them, because if they don't consent to it, we're not going to consider them.
Madam Clerk, Madam Mayor, do we have a price on how much it's going to cost to do all of this background check, and where does it come from in the budget?
I don't know. Chief, are you still around?
Chief, can you explain that, please?
Let me just.
We have Commander Washler.
Chief is on. Go ahead, Chief.
Let me just, please, let me finish. You know, I keep hearing that this is the most important decision we'll ever make. I keep, we discuss about this issue over and over again. What I've just told the manager is the following. Because, and I've discussed this with the attorney, because the process that the commission has selected, I repeat this, the commission has selected, is to send it to a board committee, right? The committee and the county, county managers, whatever, or the Florida, whatever committee you're sending it to, they will determine who's eligible, not eligible, and give you some candidates. That will go to a second committee with.
I'm not hearing anything the chief is saying.
Chief, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, give me a second.
Okay.
All right. The process that the commission has selected is that it will be vetted by one committee who will determine who's eligible and select some candidates. And then it will go to a resident committee that will also select candidates. And then the commission has the right to then go with those suggestions of both committees, go with the suggestions of one committee, or say any commissioner can say, no, I want to bring back these additional 2 candidates. So the reason why I had suggested, and I don't know the price, it could be $100, it could be $50, it could be $300. I am in the process at this moment of getting quotes, okay, to see what an outside vendor would cost to give you the best possible background process that is required for this type of professional manager search. So because it's going to be open to any commissioner, the commissioner can say, no, I'm bringing back 3 more people. I recommend we do the background once it's closed for the candidates, and then I will also let you know, and it will let the committee know, oh my God, even if this person is eligible, we can't take them. This guy's been arrested for 5 times or for 100 felonious acts. I don't know, but I think this information ahead of time is going to be productive for everybody, and at the end of the day will prevent the city from being involved in litigation or negligent retention. That's my discussion on this item.
Let me just correct something he said there, because he seems to have a different understanding about one specific detail. I want to make sure he and everybody's clear on. Chief, no commissioner may pull applicants into the process who didn't make through the selection. They can't do it unilaterally. I could, for example, request that a candidate who didn't get through the process be added, but it would require a majority vote of the commission to have that person added. So commissioners will not be unilaterally adding people to the list. The commission as a
Right.
group will vote on adding anybody.
Correct. So we go back to
I'm
that.
just making,
So let's
because you
say
said
that-
it differently twice. I'm just letting you know, you said it differently twice, and I want to make sure you're clear on that.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying to you is, at that point, for us to do a background on that person when we did it on everybody else, it just, plus I'm telling you ahead of time, which I'm gonna follow. I'm gonna do what's required done by the commission. So what I'm saying to you is, you're gonna save time, energy, and possible issues later if ahead of time you say, oh, and this person has done this to another individual. I don't think we can have this person. We don't know. A lot of times these candidates, go from job to job or issues to issues. Resumes hold what you put in on them. So, it's extremely important that we vet that information to ensure that it's accurate and that there's no issues later on. And I've discussed this with John. John, please chime in and inform the commissioners of our discussion.
That is correct. The chief and I have had discussions regarding this. I think the idea or the concept is to be prophylactic, be proactive in identifying any potential issues from right at this point when the applications are submitted and the opening closes, that you go ahead and do the vetting, the background check of all those candidates. So in case, as was mentioned before, someone reaches back and selects one of those to be part of the final group to be interviewed and considered by the commission, that those individuals will have already been vetted, and you'll have, not only will you, but the reviewing committees will have that information to be able to consider that in their evaluation process of the various candidates.
Commissioner Tudor, what is your opinion on this?
I've seen it done both ways, and it's actually a common practice to do it both ways. You can either, as you have your applicants come in, you can go ahead and do the background that time, and I think that's what the chief is referring to. You go ahead and you do the background on all the applicants. I've actually had it done in my career. The two places I've worked at, I've had it done. One did it once the application went in, they did a preliminary background check. And at another one, they did it after there was a conditional job offer. So I think, we're fine doing it either way. I do understand, given the fact that we have a small candidate pool, that we may be able to do it prior to selection, prior to us whittling it down. I guess the big issue really comes down to what is the ultimate cost. That's what we got to, that's the missing piece of information for all of us.
Madam Mayor?
May I suggest something?
You spoke already.
Yeah. Madam Mayor, Clerk, can you give us an update on how many applications? Because you said an amount, and I think there's a different amount that you said.
Yes.
How many applications do we have as of today?
Yes.
Today.
22.
22. Thank you.
Okay. May I make a suggestion?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Why don't we, when the period closes out and we're done taking applications in, why don't we have Roseanne contact the applicants and let them know that we're starting our process and that we will be conducting a background check on anybody who makes say, well, we're going to get it down to a certain size group, and when the commission does that, at that point we will be conducting background checks that include A, B, C, D, and E, and let them know and say, if you're not willing to be subject to a background check, that's
gone out. Commissioner Kennedy, that's already gone for consent.
Requesting the applications and on the application they authorize the village to do the background check.
Oh, okay. Then I think we just get down to a smaller group and do it then. I don't think it's necessary to do this kind of thorough vetting on all 22 applicants or however many there are. I think we just need to let the two panels do their work, bring the smaller group of applicants in front of us, and let us see who we're interested in, and then we can do it then.
I agree with that. You know, whatever group is selected to move on, if that's the group that's going to be processed, I will, I'm going to start. I'm already working on getting proposals from different companies. So I think that what Commissioner Tudor said is important, and Commissioner Ross. Let's look at the cost, because I agree. I mean, we don't want to do anything that is going to be unaffordable, but we'll look at the cost, and we'll look at options, and we can vet if you guys, slim it down to 15 or 10 people, then we'll try to process. The only thing that we have to allow the vendor enough opportunity to get this background process started.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, and that was.
So, did that finish up your conversation, Rox?
I had another conversation with background checks in general, but maybe we should finish. You had something on the recruiting process, but maybe we should finish the manager issue first.
Okay, because I had something there too. So I just want to ask Roseanne. Roseanne, did you invite the board chairs yet to be part of the resident panel? The proposed date is coming up very quickly, and we want to make sure that we give them, have time to clear their schedules if they need to. Did you send that email out to them?
I did not yet for this week. Was really busy with the meeting.
Okay, I'm not criticizing. I'm just asking because we want to make sure that they have time.
That I intend to do that right after the meeting tomorrow.
Okay, good. Okay, and I know that last week when you and I spoke, you said you were meeting with the association folks, the city and county manager, whatever, I always get that group name wrong. Did you talk to them about getting the professional panel put together for you?
It's not on the professional panel. I'm gonna send to the president of the association, Miami-Dade, and they will decide if they're gonna create a panel or.
Right, but have you started that process yet? Did you ask them officially to do that for you?
Everybody is very busy with the CARES Act distribution, so I couldn't get a hold of anybody.
Those are my questions there, but now I do want to ask. I just want to make sure I'm completely clear on the process. I'm going to tell you what I thought the process was. And a couple of times I think I've heard people say something that was a little bit different. I thought the process was the application period closes. Mm-hmm. Roseanne takes all the applications. She determines the people who meet the minimum qualifications as stated in the ad. She does not make any subjective opinion about anyone. She determines who makes the minimum qualifications and who does not. The people who do not meet the minimum qualifications, she sets aside. The ones that do is the group that she forwards to the resident panel and to the association panel. Yeah. So am I understanding this correctly? That's what I understood the process was.
That after she goes through that they're meeting their basic, then they go to the manager's board.
Correct. That
right.
Roseanne is the person taking that first step, and that all she's doing is determining if they meet the qualifications as they were stated in the ad. Is that correct?
Correct, Commissioner.
Is everyone in agreement on this?
If the commission agrees,
yes,
I would like to send to the association of managers first to do that pre-screen. To see who gets the minimum requirements, because I feel more comfortable because of my position now as an interim manager. I prefer that the association of managers does that minimum requirement.
Well, okay, that's why I'm asking, because I didn't think that's what we already agreed to.
No, I'm asking if the commission agrees to.
Actually, just basic. It's just the basic requirements, right?
Yeah, yes, just the basic.
Not subjective.
Right, just the basic.
If we say they have to have 8 years of municipal experience and they only have 4, they get set aside. I made that example up.
Yes, that's it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
Let me ask another question now. When we send that to the professional managers board, at that point, Louis, Chief, is that when you'll come in and send them over to get background checks?
No.
The minute that
After we get them and we whittle it down to a smaller group, the commission does that. Those are the people who we send for background checks before we do the interviews.
I don't agree to that.
Commissioner Kenny, let me just ask you a question so we're all on the same page. I don't want later on to be miscommunication among all of us. When you say we, the commission gets it, are you guys getting it after the vetting of the second panel?
Oh.
Okay, maybe I should walk through this. Let me just kind of walk through very quickly the steps. Application period ends. Roseanne has a pile of applicants. It's 50. She goes through. She sees who meets the minimum requirements. Those who don't, she sets aside. Those who do, she simultaneously sends them to 2 groups, the association group and the resident group. Independently, they both get the exact same list. The professional group comes back with as many as 5. The resident panel comes back with as many as 10. Whatever number that comes to be, when you combine those 2, it'll probably be a duplication of the same people. That's who comes to the commission. We have a meeting, we consider it, we whittle down that group of 10 to 15, whatever it is, to a smaller number that we determine. And we say, okay, we're really interested, like we did with the attorneys tonight, we're really interested in 4 of these applicants. As a group, we come to that consensus. Then we send those people off to have a background check done before we conduct the interviews.
Yeah.
The 2 panels are independent of each other.
Okay, so all of that I understand. I just want to make sure we don't miscommunicate. But I got a question for you. So before, you don't think the panels or yourself, before you dwindle groups down, should know if someone maybe is maybe a formerly convicted of aggravated assault or some capital crime? I mean, that's my concern here, or that they have a crime-related fraud or money or anything that you would say definitely not, this person should not be manager. That is my concern.
I also question if, Chief, you can answer this for me. Any of the background checks is really privileged, and I don't know that that should go to the public.
Exactly.
No, it's not.
That's privileged information. I think we've got to get a background check first.
Yes.
Or simultaneously with sending it to professional managers. But it shouldn't go to our public group yet, the resident group yet, because that's going to be privileged.
It never will. It will never go. The results of a background check will not go to the public. No.
No.
John, are you there a second, real quick?
John?
Not necessarily true. Any.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Don't we scratch off
any document received? Yeah, any document received by the town, by the village, in the course of normal business, as part of its business, which certainly would be the vetting of these candidates, is a public record unless otherwise exempt. And I'm not aware of any exemption that exists under Florida law that would allow the village to preclude or stop or not have to give out that information to anyone who asked for it as a public record.
Correct. That's correct. So if the only information we will redact from the background checks would be the social security numbers of these candidates. Okay, and John, that would be it, right? Correct?
Yeah, and keep in mind, commissioners, that the vast majority of the information that would be obtained through such a public or through such a search or background check is public record already. The 90% of whatever is going to be obtained through a background check is going to be located in the public records by whoever's doing the background check.
Yeah, and part of the background, and I provided everyone an email, would be to not only the references, but to contact their former employees and inquire, information on their historical, which would be included in your whole background and your package, which I think would probably be important to you.
Commissioner Ross, you have your hand up?
Yeah, a couple of things I wanted to mention. The clerk has already said that she feels, I'm sorry, the interim manager has already said that she feels that it may be inappropriate for her to do that first filter process. So I don't think that we should impose it upon her to do, and just go ahead and send all of the resumes to the two committees and let them do that process. That way it's not on her, because she is the interim manager and will be the clerk, a subordinate to this person who's hired. So let's maybe remove that part of the process and only and give it to the committees outright. With regard to the searches, number one, we're talking about a cost. And when we last did it, it was like $350 each. I'm sure it's more now.
No, it's
and
not.
I'm sorry, may I finish?
Oh, sure.
Thank you. And then we're also talking about not having an HR professional to guide us through this process. And although a lot of the information that's going to come back from the searches is already public information, it's not organized and compiled in a report. And we're going to be pushing all of that information out to the public, because everything that we do is in public. I think that it's granted that the applicants sign permission for us to do their background check, and I think that it is intended for an employer or an HR department to have access to those reports. I don't think that it is intended for the city to turn around and publish everybody's background checks. I think it's an invasion of their privacy, and it's probably not a good way to start a relationship with the manager that you're going to hire. I'm sure that and to the chief's point about having maybe someone on the short list that has a record with some criminality, then that person's going to come off the list. We're not going to hire somebody like that. So, if they made it through all the filters and came to our short list, and then we did the background check, well, they're done. They have a big X on the resume now. So that to me is not any kind of a deterrent for not waiting until we have a short list to do the background checks. That's it.
Chief, did you want to
I'm
answer?
just remembering back to,
I'm sorry, one second.
No, Commissioner Kennedy, go ahead.
I'm just remembering back to when I was on the selection committee and Maria Camara was the village clerk and the interim manager, and she did this. It was part of what she did. So I'm still kind of stuck on why, Roseanne, you're not comfortable doing this. It's your job. And you're not making a subjective opinion about anybody. You're simply looking at the resume and checking off a list to see if they meet the minimum requirements. That's all it is. So if we want to move everybody forward to both groups, it was really, going through that first step. Historically, it's what we have done, and it was just to get rid of the obvious ones that don't belong on the list, is to get them out of the way of the two committees. But if you want to move them all forward, it's only going to be 20-some applicants. I'm fine with that, just in the interest of getting this part of it done. But I see no reason to put all of these people through background checks, slow the process down, spend all that money. Let's just do our job and get a small group and then check them out after that. I don't see the reason.
Madam Mayor.
Commissioner.
Ms. Marion.
Yeah, yes. First off, I think that, and I agree with Commissioner Kennedy, Roseanne, the clerk should be able to whittle it down the list to take out the people that are not qualified. And I think she's not saying that she wasn't going to do it. She just says she was waiting for the commissioner's directions. Before we can even say about the background checks, we don't even know what the cost is going to be and budget as far as that's concerned. I think we should do background checks on all of them, especially when it says on the application that they agreed to a background check. I don't think anybody, not even the chief, was saying that the background check was going to be made public. I don't know where that was coming from. That was.
Mayor, let me just let me reply. I think that everybody's saying the same thing, and I think everybody's intentions are in the right place. Please allow me the opportunity to get back with. I mean, the closing date we're not there yet, so we can, when we meet next or as soon as possible, I will try to get you the quotes that will allow you, to make an informed decision. And as far as the background process, let me assure you, we do background. The police department is involved in the process, and not only do we do it for ourselves, we do it for El Portal and other agencies. So whoever the vendor is, we'll have knowledge, and we'll be able to work with the clerk to ensure, because we have a debt to ensure that that it's done appropriately. The concern of the clerk was, is it, and John answered that, is it legal for us to put their information out publicly? We the police department do background checks all the time, and we get public records requests, and we have to provide that information with police officers. The redactions are a little bit more, which is, their date of birth, social security, and home addresses. With individuals that are not law enforcement, then the redaction is less. So we're well aware, and whatever we don't know, we will confer with the attorney, and if needed, with ethics or anybody else. So, but just allow me to get some proposed. We have, I think, 5,000 or 6,000 in the budget right now for HR HR that's currently budget. So the money should not be the money aspect. Whether we spend $5 or whatever it is, it shouldn't be an issue. But I'd like to get an opportunity to give the commission some projections from the quotes.
Yes.
Okay, that sounds good. Anybody?
I think this may be the last meeting we have before the closing date. It just seems like we're really complicating this process. I just have to say, we're really complicating a process. Roseanne can certainly go through and remove the people who are not qualified. She already told me she got some applicants who have zero relevant experience. So they don't have what we're asking for. You set them aside. And let the two panels do their job. Let us see what we have going on and do background checks after that. I think we're complicating the process, wasting time, not just with this conversation, but it's going to slow everything down. It just seems like serious overkill. We're going to get a short list. Then we check these people out. Look, you have to think, guys, that anyone who is applying for this job and makes it through having the right amount of relevant experience and qualifications and knows that we're going to do this, they're going to have opted out of this process already. They're not going to put themselves, if they're a convicted felon, they murdered someone, you have to think, if they're qualified and they did that, they're not going to apply for this job knowing we're about to do this with them. And they're probably watching this meeting right now. So, and they know it's all going to happen and all the things that are how we're going to be checked out. So,
Madam Mayor, can we wrap this up, please? Can we wrap this up? Can we wrap this up?
Mayor, let me just ask one question. Let me just clarify something for the commission. I have no issue once they remove the candidates that are eligible, not eligible, and we can begin there. The only thing I was saying is the sooner I begin, the sooner you will complete this process. If you want to wait till both committees are done and the commission picks it, I don't know how long the process will take for them to be able to give you these background checks. That's number one. Number two, until we don't contact employers, we don't know that a candidate, because it may not come out on the criminal history. If they've been sexually harassing people, if they've been, have been accused of EOC, many other things. We're not going to know that until we check with their employers. This is going to take a little bit of time. So as long as you're aware of that, I will.
Do employers tell you that kind of information?
Absolutely, it has to. They will because it's in their files. We check.
Well, I can tell you that our company doesn't. We confirm dates of employment, title. That's it. I get called for references all the time, and I say she worked here from this date to this date, and her title was blank. Got to go. I'm busy. Bye. That's all they get from me.
Remember something, Commissioner. The requirements for a private corporation or private company and public entities, which the majority of these people have worked in, and if I would say most of them, are totally different. This is public record. They're not exempt, and this is information we would be entitled to.
I have a hard time believing that information is going to be shared by a municipality.
I would not.
Okay, Madam Mayor, please.
Don, is this not correct, or am I wrong?
Commissioner Samaria?
No, I think we have still a long way to go, so I would like to know if we can just move on. And, with this.
We have to decide how we're gonna do this.
How about if we wait until we get a price and then we
That's
can.
what I thought we were doing. Yes, thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, that's the missing piece of the
We
puzzle.
don't have a meeting. We don't have another meeting.
I have asked that question of staff, but we don't have an answer yet.
We do have plenty.
You asked what question was that?
What the cost of a background check will be.
We're still gathering the information.
Chief, you'll get that to us as soon as possible, please?
Yes, I'm working on I think 3 or 4 companies. I think we're getting some in this week. So that's, we don't have to have a meeting. I can put this out to the commissioners, or I'll check with John what's the best way, or the manager, the interim manager, and then you guys can quickly decide and want to have this discussion in one of the meetings. I'll get this as quickly as possible. I understand this is important, and I understand there's an urgency in the selection of the managers.
Yeah, the cost is a big thing, and just to let everybody know, just doing a quick little check, you're looking at some companies that are going to charge, depending on the search, anywhere from $55 to $80 for the checks.
Right. Okay. Shall we proceed, or?
Yes, please, let's proceed, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Chief, you'll get back to us on that. What else do you want on the, under old business?
I think Commissioner, Vice Mayor Kennedy had something, or did you cover everything?
I'm sorry?
We just covered one of mine, and earlier we covered another one of mine. I'm looking at my list here. One of my old business items was asking Roseanne to share an update on FDOT. We heard back from FDOT today. Residents certainly don't know. I don't know if all the commissioners are aware of what happened today with FDOT, but I think Roseanne should give us all a 2-minute update on that. It's important.
Yeah, we just received the email with the FDOT background on the resolution, when we sent the resolution that was passed, and 2020-35. And I believe what they sent, Vice Mayor, it was exactly the material that was on the meeting of the resolution when we passed the resolution 2020-35. But I'm gonna distribute with the commissions tomorrow, and for everybody can figure out on those documents. But my impression that was exactly the background of the resolution 2020-35.
Okay, so in a nutshell, FDOT stopped their design process. They have brought the process to a halt, and they are now awaiting a resolution from us about how we want to proceed. So we need to, at a future date, not now, decide how and when we're going to proceed with providing that resolution to them, because as of now, they have stopped. And they were also very clear, this was interesting in the response for anyone who's listening, that they said that the budgeted amount of $2.6 million that if we were to come back and ask for things outside the original scope of work, that they would not necessarily be able to exceed that budgeted amount, which sounds like the amount is as long as we stay under 2.6 million and whatever we do request, we're probably in pretty good shape. And they just made it clear that if we start requesting things that'll go over the budget, that they would have to review that request. So the ball is very squarely in our court. So we got what we asked for. So I think that's all very good news. The other thing I had on here was an update on solid waste RFP. It just arrived in my inbox right before the meeting. I didn't have a chance to even open up the anything. So what is the quick status of that, John? Is the RFP done? Is it going out, or is it going up?
We are still, as the email says, we are still waiting on one very important piece of information from Waste Pro, and that is the estimated tonnage of solid waste that is being picked up currently by Waste Pro. That without that number, no competitor can properly bid on the work. I mean,
I thought they could do that based on how many residents we have, that they could at least do a bid based on number of residents, and that could be squared up a little bit later.
Any company can do that, in my opinion.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, frankly, but I do know that the majority of RFPs that I've seen and that I reviewed in trying to put this one together do have an estimated tonnage, because that then dictates, gives the potential vendors that may apply or submit proposals a much better idea of what type of equipment they're going to need, because they actually know the tonnage as opposed to just simply the number of homes. Although we do provide both pieces of information to the prospective bidders in that regard.
Both what both pieces of information?
The other piece of information
Houses and tonnage?
Yeah, the tonnage. So we don't have that information.
I thought residents. Okay. I thought number of residents also was a strong indicator of what it would be, at least for the purposes of estimating.
And that number is provided as well. But in order to be able to get the most accurate bids to allow you all to make the best informed decision, we would like to provide that both numbers to the prospective proposers. The last piece of information is, and it's just a minor detail, is confirming from Public Works what is the amount, what are the size of the containers that the village uses at its facilities, because that is also needs to be factored in, because that is part of the not necessarily the pricing, but all prospective proposers are required to obviously pick up all solid waste from village facilities. That's it.
Anything else on that, Commissioner?
If I could add to that, as the commission authorized, I worked with John on getting the RFP done as far as tailoring it to the services that we have here. With regard to the tonnage, part of Waste Pro's contract required them to give quarterly reports on the tonnage. And maybe somebody should look through the village manager's email addresses to see if those reports came through to them. I don't understand why we don't, readily have that information, but it's probably in Waste Pro's interest for us not to get it now. So I don't want to be held hostage by them, but we did have that information in our last RFP when it went out, and I've seen many. We also provide them with the number of dwellings, not necessarily the number of residents, although I guess that could be added too.
No, when I reference residents, I meant the number of homes that are being picked up.
Yeah, we have the population number.
Yeah, I would think that population number would be a strong indicator, because a house doesn't make trash, a person does. So, but Rox brings up a really good point. Has anyone looked for that, and has anyone asked Waste Pro for it? Are they refusing to give it to you, or are they just not responding?
I asked Waste Pro, yes.
And I
No,
assume
my
you
question
haven't
is, are they
heard back.
refusing to give it to you, or are they not responding to you?
No, they said they're going to collect the data. They said it's a lot of data because it's an average for 3 years.
But they were supposed to be providing those reports every quarter. That was in their contract.
When's the last report we got from them, if ever?
I don't have that information, Mayor. I'm sorry.
If we have the report, then, you know, from whatever that quarter is, we then just multiply it by and come out with a total that we need to plug in. But we need at least one of the reports, preferably one recent, in order to be able to plug in that number. Other than that, the RFP is ready to go and be posted. As I communicated to each of you when I sent you a copy of the RFP, that I do think that just makes obvious sense to extend the deadline for submission of the proposals in a corresponding amount of time, which would be about another 20 days.
Yes.
Okay. Is that all your items there, Commissioner Kennedy?
Well, so
Under old.
okay, so we're gonna wait for that to get done, and that'll get sent out to us. Now, there was one other thing, the amicus brief that John did send out to us. If we're going to,
He was doing that on
you're
his.
gonna do that in your, okay, fair enough. Then that's it.
Commissioner Ross, are you finished with old business?
Yes. Oh, I had something else. We'll just put it off to the next meeting. With regard to background checks in general for our employees, but I'll bring that in September.
Okay. John, you want to give first your amicus curiae?
Yeah, and you know, I brought up at the last meeting the emails that both you and I had received, Mayor, from this outside group, and all the commissioners wanted to see the email, which we forwarded on to everyone. And obviously, as I said at the last meeting, before I ever were to sign my name to any pleadings that involve the village, I would seek commission approval before doing so. So that's the issue before you, is whether or not you want to lend your name, and that's all it would be doing. And that's all that's being asked of the village, is to lend its name and its signature to a pending brief that's already been filed in an ongoing dispute between the government agency in I think it's Philadelphia and the plaintiff.
Any comments on it?
I think we should support it.
I do too.
I would need a motion and a vote to direct me to do so.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'm going to repeat my motion. I'm going to repeat my motion from the last meeting, that we authorize the attorney to add the Village of Biscayne Park to the amicus brief.
Okay, I'll second that. Do we need a voice vote, or do we need a roll call? I think a voice vote is okay.
This one, although I did see that Commissioner Samaria was trying to make a comment.
Yeah, I was asking, when did you send out that email? Because I didn't get that brief.
I sent out the email immediately during the meeting when it was being discussed, and I think it got sent back out this afternoon.
Yeah.
Didn't see the one on the meeting.
August 4th.
I got it twice.
In front of me, August 4th.
Yeah, that was last week when it came up for discussion, and then I sent it back out to today.
Okay, can we do a voice vote on that? Or do we need a roll call? Is anybody opposed? Is anybody for?
Yes.
I'm for it.
Yes.
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 Okay.
Thank you.
Passed. So
Thank you for bringing that to us, John.
Nothing on my end.
do you have anything else now on your report, John?
No, ma'am. Sorry.
Okay. Roseanne, do you have anything?
No,
on
Mayor.
your report?
No, I don't have any.
Okay, do we have any board or committee reports?
Nope.
Does any of the commissioners want to say anything?
No.
Can we get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn for 5 minutes, come back for the budget workshop.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, 5 minutes.